Chapter 968. On the 29th of January, although it was already the beginning of spring, the night was still very cold. The walls of Huiyuan City were all red, like a huge red mountain standing in the darkness. It was said that the bricks of Huiyuan City were made from special volcanic rocks, which was why they were so red. The bricks were hard and smooth, which was not good for climbing. Therefore, Huiyuan City, which had less than 10,000 guards, was able to withstand the attack of hundreds of thousands of Chen Yu's troops. Chen Yu had to give up Huiyuan City and go to the Blackstone Empire in the south. If Huiyuan City had not been defended, perhaps Chen Yu would not have suffered a crushing defeat in Hongyan province. The old general on the city wall was holding a flagon of wine, his eyes staring into the distance. Suddenly, he raised his arm and said, "Ballisti, archers, be on guard, someone is coming." A 10-man squad leader couldn't help but laugh. "Lord, you are nervous again. Chen Yu's troops have been defeated long ago. It is impossible for them to come back. Who will come now? Watch carefully." Sure enough, the dense and slow sound of horse hooves could be heard on the official road. Soon, a flag could be seen. It was a flag embroidered with the mythological beast Bai Zai. Under the illumination of the fire on the city wall, at least 10,000 Bai Zai mercenaries appeared below the city wall. "Who is it?" the general shouted. "Huiyuan City has implemented a curfew. No one is allowed to enter the city at night. This is the order of Marshal Gong Shangming. No one can disobey it. Please go back." Under the city wall, a girl who was originally riding on a war horse suddenly flew up to the same position as the top of the city wall. She smiled and said, "What? Bai Zai mercenaries have just helped you drive away the army of the Celestial Empire. Now Huiyuan City has started to refuse Bai Zai mercenaries to rest in the city? Lord, what is your name?" The old general said, "I am Hua Chang, the vanguard general of Huiyuan City." "Who are you?" The girl smiled and said, "I'm Si Kongyao, old General Hua Chang. I've seen you in Tianji City before. Have you forgotten me? You see, my Bai Zai mercenaries have run out of food due to the heavy snow. We can no longer set up an ambush in the forest of no return, so we are now hungry and tired. We are returning to Shiping City via Huiyuan City. I hope that General will allow us to enter the city to rest for a while and provide us with some food and fodder. We will leave after a day's rest. I guarantee that we will not cause any trouble to Huiyuan City." "So it's Miss Si Kongyao. Please excuse my lack of manners." Hua Chang cupped his hands and said, "Miss Si Kongyao's Bai Zai mercenaries have attacked the main force of the Celestial Empire at the edge of the province. They have killed 50,000 soldiers. The Celestial Empire is terrified of them. I've heard about this. But I didn't expect that Miss Si Kongyao's army would actually pass through Huiyuan City. You've taken a long detour." Next to him, a Chiliarch lowered his voice and said, "General Hua, the Marshal's secret order clearly states that we should guard Huiyuan City and wait for the Empire's army to arrive. He also said that we need to guard against the Bai Zai mercenaries. They are even more terrifying than the Celestial Empire's army. General, you must not let them enter the city. Otherwise, if something goes wrong, both of us will go to see the Marshal." Hua Chang furrowed his brows and said in a clear voice, "Commander Gong has ordered us to defend the city to the death. Before receiving the military order, this old general does not dare to open the city gates. How about this, eldest Miss Si Kongyao? Why don't you lead the army and set up camp outside the city? This old general will immediately order the supplies department to provide you with all the necessary rations and military equipment." Si Kongyao couldn't help laughing. "It seems that General Gong has begun to guard against me, Si Kongyao? No, it's just that General Gong is being cautious." Si Kongyao's pretty face turned cold. "What do you mean by being cautious? It's obvious that you don't trust the Bai Zai mercenaries. Gong Shangming, don't forget that if it weren't for the Bai Zai mercenaries cutting off the Serpentine Road's food supply route and cutting off the Celestial Empire's retreat, would he have been able to defeat the million-strong army? I'm afraid that Gong Shangming is still eating human flesh in Eastcom City." Hua Chang's expression was very ugly, but he remained silent. Si Kongyao held the sword in her hand and said in a low voice, "You have to open the city gate whether you want to or not. Do as you see fit." I know the situation inside the city better than anyone. 7,000 old, weak, and crippled soldiers with incomplete armor. I'm afraid there are less than 10,000 arrows left. Do you think you can stop the 50,000 cavalrymen of the Bai Zhe mercenaries with just you? 50,000 cavalrymen. Hua Chang trembled when he heard this. It was pitch black outside, and the cavalrymen behind Si Kong Yao were endless. No one knew how many there were. Lu Bai's voice came from below the city. Yao, why are you wasting time with him? If he hesitates any longer, I'll order for the city to be breached. Si Kong Yao looked at Hua Chang coldly and said, Old General, I only want to enter the city to rest so that my soldiers can have a warm night and eat their fill. If you keep making things difficult for me, then I can only use force. But don't forget, going against me means going against the Tianji sect. Moreover, I'm the Princess of Shiping, 5 levels higher than you. Are you really going to stop me? Hua Chang finally relented. Will the Princess of Shiping really not offend my army after entering the city? Of course. All right, Hua Chang took a deep breath and said, Someone, open the city gate and lead the Bai Zhe mercenaries into the camp inside the city to rest. Yes, General. The gate slowly opened. Lu Bai immediately led a group of Bai Zhe mercenaries into the city. However, the moment they entered the city, they immediately took control of the city gate and pointed their cold swords at the old and weak soldiers in the city. Si Kong Yao jumped and landed beside Hua Chang. She placed the sharp sword on his neck and smiled. Old General, I'm sorry. I'll take over the Huoyan city. Hua Chang's face was ashen. Didn't you say that you would not offend my army? There's nothing too deceitful in war. Si Kong Yao revealed a sly smile and said, But you don't have to worry. We only want the Huoyan city. We don't want your lives. This time, we will not offend you. Hua Chang gasped. What do you want, Princess? Isn't it enough that you already have Shiping province? Do you want another Huoyan city? Although your Bai Zhe mercenaries are powerful, they may not be able to defend the city. You don't have to worry about that. Si Kong Yao smiled. Hand over the governor's seal immediately. I'll be in charge of the Huoyan city from now on. Oh no, the whole Huoyan province will be under my control. Hua Chang's face was ashen. He said in a trembling voice, What do you want, Princess? There are only 4 provinces in the Tianji Empire. What do you want to do by occupying 2 provinces? You don't have to worry about it. Hand over the seal. It's in the governor's hands. Take me there. Yes. 2 hours later, Hua Chang successfully obtained the governor's seal and took over the entire Huoyuan city. Finally, Hua Chang left the Huoyuan city with more than 3,000 remaining soldiers before dawn. The remaining 4,000 soldiers had pledged their allegiance to Si Kong Yao. For most of the local armies, it didn't matter who they were loyal to. What was important was who could give them food. As long as they had food, they wouldn't starve to death. At daybreak, a large number of high-level demon spirits entered Huoyuan City and went straight to the governor's mansion. The group of people were wearing thick cloaks, and their faces were hidden by the cloaks. When they entered the mansion, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi also appeared. A graceful woman took off her cloak and revealed a beautiful face. It was Nu Shi. She seemed to be a little nervous. Is it really okay to take over Huoyuan City like this? There will be no problem. Si Kong Yao said, Your Majesty, you need to order the high-level demon spirits to disguise themselves as humans and blend into the army. You need to establish an army that you can control to control Huoyuan province. Then, you need to designate the forest area in the city as a forbidden area for the demon spirits to live in. When the time is ripe, you can announce the peaceful coexistence between humans and demon spirits. Of course, the most important thing is to restrain the demon spirits. From now on, they will only eat grains and not humans. Otherwise, whatever you say will be false. It's impossible for humans to coexist with demon spirits. Nu Shi said, Don't worry. I will issue a decree. If any demon spirit disobeys, they will be killed without mercy. It's no different from a human's decree. That's good. Si Kong Yao smiled. The distance between Huoyuan City and Shiping City is less than 500 miles. It will take the cavalry a day and a night to get there. Our Baizhe mercenaries can reinforce you at any time. Your demon spirit clan will also be able to reinforce Shiping City very quickly. Yes, we will watch over each other like this. As she spoke, Nusher turned around and bowed deeply to Lin Muyu. This little girl thanks your highness you for your kindness. If it wasn't for your idea, I'm afraid that the demon spirit clan would not have a place in this world. Your majesty is too polite. Lin Muyu said, however, this is only the first step. We still have other plans. What plans? Si Kongyao and Qin Yin asked at the same time. Lin Muyu smiled. Right now, the Tianji Empire is struggling at death's door. It's true that Gong Xiangming has defeated Qinyu, but the number of troops he has is pitifully small. Coupled with the fact that he has lost the taxes of 2 provinces, the Tianji Empire's national strength has declined to only 20% of what it used to be. It's impossible for them to contend against the Celestial Empire and the Blackstone Empire. Therefore, our next opponent will no longer be the Tianji Empire. Instead, we should focus our strategy on forming an alliance with the Tianji Empire and expelling the Blackstone Empire. After training our troops, we will march south and seize Qianshan City and Red Rock City. This will force the Blackstone Empire's army to advance eastwards and let them snatch the territories of the Celestial Empire and fight to the death with the remaining troops of Qinyu. Tang Xiaoxi smiled. Mu, you're really getting worse. You can even come up with this kind of idea. This is just a balance. We must make the celestial pole continent reach a balance as a whole. Nusher smiled. Then what happens after this balance is reached? We need another force to break this balance and re-establish the order of the celestial pole continent, Lin Muyu said confidently. What is this force you're talking about? Naturally, it's the army of our Qin Empire. Lin Muyu's words were full of pride. Chapter 969. On the 4th of February, it had been almost a month since Gong Xiangming's army had completely defeated the Celestial Empire's army. However, there weren't many smiles in the Tianji Palace of Tianji City. In the past month, they had only heard one bad news after another. Marshal Gong has arrived, the eunuch announced loudly. A group of civil and military officials looked over and saw Gong Xiangming in his military uniform with a long sword hanging from his waist. His gilded combat boots stepped on the blood-red carpet as he walked into the palace step by step. After the Battle of East Com City, Gong Xiangming's name shook the world. He was already the #1 general of the Tianji Empire in name and in reality. After Zhang Cheng died in battle, under the circumstances where all the generals were helpless, this Confucian scholar stepped forward and turned the tide. Not only did he win a good reputation, but he also established his position in the Tianji Empire. Even the emperor, Baiming Yuan, thought highly of this Confucian marshal. Marshal Gong is here? Give him a seat, Baiming Yuan said. Thank you, your majesty. Gong Xiangming knelt on the ground and said, but I can't take a seat. There's new news coming from afar. This news makes me feel very embarrassed. What news? Si Kongyao and Baizhe's mercenaries have occupied Huiyuan City. The entire Huiyuan province's dozens of prefectures have fallen one by one. Baizhe's mercenaries have a very big appetite. Not only Xishan province, but they've even swallowed Huiyuan province. Preposterous. Baiming Yuan slammed the table and stood up. His face was full of anger. What is this little girl Si Kongyao thinking? Is she trying to seize half of my empire? Marshal Gong, as the empire's marshal, you defeated the Celestial Empire's million-strong army in the Battle of East Com City. You must have a way to take back 2 provinces from Si Kongyao, right? Gong Xiangming's face was livid. Your Majesty, I can't. Why? Gong Xiangming raised his head to look at Baiming Yuan and said, first, our national treasury is already empty. We can't take out more food and weapons to fight. Second, our military strength has declined to an unprecedented level. The Battle of East Com City was a decisive battle against the Celestial Empire's million-strong army with the Tianji Empire's national strength. After the battle, Qinyu was defeated, and we weren't much better off. Yanji Corps, Lanji Corps, and the newly formed army numbered nearly 500,000 people, but only less than 200,000 are left. Moreover, many of them are heavily injured, and many of them are unable to step onto the battlefield again. On the other hand, Si Kongyao's Bai Zai's mercenaries only had one chance to directly enter the battlefield. That was an ambush on the border of Huiyuan province. They didn't suffer many losses at all. Instead, they captured many of the Celestial Empire's troops. Together with the troops they recruited, the Bai Zai's mercenaries now have at least 250,000 soldiers. In terms of strength, we are no longer above Bai Zai's mercenaries. What? Bai Mingyuan felt a chill in his heart when he heard this. He said, if I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have invited the Bai Zai's mercenaries for reinforcements. This is simply inviting a wolf into the house. I was foolish. Gong Shangming smiled faintly. Your Majesty, you are not foolish. If Si Kongyao's Bai Zai's mercenaries hadn't schemed in the Forest of No Return, I'm afraid that Qinyu wouldn't have been defeated. If you hadn't invited Si Kongyao, the Tianji Empire would have perished. Now, what should we do? Bai Mingyuan asked with an ashen face. Gong Shangming said, it's true that the Bai Zai's mercenaries have invited a wolf into the house. This is a bad thing, but it's not like we can't turn a bad thing into a good thing. Marshal Gong, please speak. Your Majesty, in the end, Si Kongyao hasn't completely fallen out with us yet. She is still the princess of Shiping in the Tianji Empire. In my opinion, why don't you grant Si Kongyao an imperial edict and order her to lead the Bai Zai's mercenaries to attack the Liaishan province of the Blackstone Empire? In this way, we can take advantage of the situation and take back 2 provinces at one go. This is called, when the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. Alright. Bai Mingyuan stood up and said, we'll act according to the plan. But what if Si Kongyao doesn't accept my edict? It's her business whether she accepts it or not. It's your business whether to issue the edict or not. Gong Shangming said faintly, Your Majesty, I would like to use your golden token. What's the use of my golden token? I want to go to the Tianji sect to meet the sect leader, Si Kongming. I'm afraid that he's the only one who can restrain Si Kongyao at this moment. Okay. In the afternoon, at the Tianji sect's main altar. Gong Shangming held the Empire's golden token in his hand and led dozens of guards into the main altar. Along the way, there was a lot of chatter. It seemed that spring came earlier in the Tianji sect's main altar compared to other places. In the depths of the main altar, pear blossoms were in full bloom. It was rare to see such beautiful and exquisite things in Tianji City. Even the imperial garden of the Tianji Palace was not as elegant and unique as this. In the depths of the pear blossoms was a thatched cottage. It was Si Kongming's residence. A disciple walked in front and said respectfully, Sect leader, Marshal Gong Shangming requests an audience. Creak. The wooden door opened slowly. Si Kongming, who was dressed in a white robe, walked out in high spirits. However, if one looked closely, one would notice that his feet did not touch the ground at all. Every step he took caused a layer of frost to ripple. It was very magical. I wonder why Marshal is looking for an old man like me? Si Kongming said with a smile. He was very amiable and amiable. Gong Shangming immediately bowed and said respectfully, Old sect leader, I am here for Miss Si Kongyao's matter. Old sect leader, do you know what Miss Si Kongyao has been doing recently? Si Kongming smiled and said, Are you talking about Yao? I don't know. Yao has already grown up. Even an old man like me can't control her anymore. I won't ask what Yao is doing. So, I'm afraid that Marshal has come for nothing. Old sect leader. Gong Shangming's voice was filled with sincerity as he said, The Bai's mercenaries under Miss Si Kongyao's command have already consecutively plundered the West Mountain and Huiyuan provinces. Her actions are tantamount to treason. Are you really going to sit back and do nothing? Treason? Is that so? Si Kongming had a kind look on his face. He smiled and said, Didn't His Majesty confer her the title of West Mountain Commandery Princess? If that's the case, he must have bestowed 2 fiefs to Yao. This is the honor of our Si Kong family. Our ancestral graves are emitting green smoke. Gong Shangming frowned and said, Old sect master, how can His Imperial Majesty endure your words? Eldest young Miss Si Kong Yao attacked the Fire Element province without even giving us a heads up. If His Imperial Majesty investigates this matter, I'm afraid it will not be easy to resolve. Si Kong Ming's face turned cold. What? Investigate? Whoever dares to touch a hair on my granddaughter can try. Don't think that I, Si Kong Ming, can't do anything for decades. Let me tell you, this old man is still strong and healthy. Gong Shangming was stunned. Old sect leader, you mean, you don't care what Miss Yao does outside, but if His Majesty wants to punish her, you will definitely intervene, right? That's right. Si Kong Ming gently stroked his beard and said, this old man has already said that everything in the world has nothing to do with me and the Tianji sect. Yao is a sensible child. I can understand what she does, but if anyone wants to hurt Yao, then don't blame me, Si Kong Ming, for fighting to the death with these old bones of mine. Gong Shangming's expression was blank. He had never seen such an unreasonable person in his life. Furthermore, this person was actually the sect master of the Celestial Polarity sect, known as the strongest expert in the Celestial Pole continent. Even that radiant angel Zai might not be stronger than Si Kong Ming, but he would definitely not be as unreasonable as Gong Shangming. This was simply an old fox. Gong Shangming secretly thought this, but he couldn't do anything. If he angered Si Kong Ming, the consequences would be unimaginable. Si Kong Ming's strength was unfathomable. It was possible that he could kill his way into the palace and kill the emperor. I'll take my leave. I won't see you off, Marshal. Remember not to hurt my Yao. Otherwise, the Marshal will understand. Yes. Gong Shangming slowly backed out of the pear garden, his face looking even worse than before. He had accepted the position of general in the face of danger, but now it seemed that it was really not an easy position to hold. When Bai Minghuan was in power, he had been eating and drinking all day, but now that he was in power, he had to live in fear every day. Every day felt like a year. Marshal Gong, what do we do now? Long Ji Corps Commander Castor asked uneasily. What else can we do? Let's just take it one step at a time. Castor frowned. I'm afraid we can't wait for you to take it one step at a time. Recently, many important officials in the court have been talking about you behind your back. Maybe one day, someone will jointly impeach you. What are they talking about? They said. Castor wanted to say something but stopped. No need to worry. Just say it, Commander. Castor nodded and said, they are talking about you, saying that you are a cannibal marshal who gave the order to eat people in the Shattered Cauldron realm. Now that we have been trapped in East Peace City for more than a month, your subordinates have eaten more than 200,000 corpses, including the civilians of East Peace Province. Even the governor's 3 daughters were eaten. They said that you, a cannibal marshal, are not even human, so how can you be a marshal? Marshal Gong, don't be angry. Are just the words of some vile people. I know. Gong Shangming stood in the cold wind, his marshal's cloak fluttering in the wind. Under the cloak, his body looked a little thin. He sighed and said, it's so cold. Let's go back early. Yes. However, when Gong Shangming came to the edge of the horse, he slipped a few times in the stirrups and even leaned over the horse's back, pressing his face tightly into the saddle. The saddle was very cold, but not his heart. Gong Shangming did not know whether he was doing the right thing or not. He did not even know whether he should step out with his left foot or right foot. Marshal Gong, are you okay? Castor asked in a low voice. I'm fine. Gong Shangming looked up and said, it seems that old sect Master Si Kong Ming's path won't work either. We have to think of other ways to take back the 2 provinces from Si Kong Yao. Otherwise, the south will not be stable, and the Tianji Empire will soon be fragmented. Castor nodded. He helped Gong Shangming onto the horse and held the reins. He said, Marshal Gong, do you still want to continue fighting for those ungrateful vile people? Gong Shangming straightened his iron helmet, his eyes blazing like torches. No, I continue to fight for my eternal glory, not for them, not anymore, Castor. Chapter 970. On the 9th day of the 2nd month, King Lan Ji led the delegation to Shiping City. Naturally, he was solemnly welcomed by the Bai Zhe mercenaries. When more than 100 members of the delegation were escorted by the Bai Zhe mercenaries into the governor's mansion, King Lanji's complexion was very ugly. This time, Shang Qian wasn't in Shiping City, so King Lanji didn't have any trump cards in his hands. The governor's mansion's meeting hall was resplendent with gold and jade, just like a palace. Si Kongyao's pair of long legs were wearing leather boots, and she was wearing a golden cloak. She was sitting on the throne at the end of the golden stairs like a queen. Below her were 2 rows of Bai's mercenary generals, who were clad in armor and had torch-like eyes. Each of them was murderous, as if they would swallow King Lanji alive at any time. "Welcome, Your Highness King Lanji." Si Kongyao stood up and gracefully saluted. King Lanji was a little frightened. He said, "Princess Yao, you're too polite." Si Kongyao went straight to the point. "I wonder why Your Highness has come to Shiping City this time? More than 2 months ago, Your Highness invited the Bai Zhe mercenaries to go on an expedition to East Com City. We've already done it. This Xishan province is a fief that His Majesty personally conferred to me. You wouldn't go back on your word, would you?" "No, how could that be?" King Lanji's face was full of embarrassment. He said, "This time, I've come only to inquire about the Fire Element Province. The Fire Element Province is one of the 4 major provinces of the Empire. It was originally Marshal Bai Minghuan's fief. His Majesty wants me to ask, why did the Bai Zhe mercenaries seize the provinces of the Fire Element Province? Princess Yao, you must give me an explanation. Otherwise, I won't be able to report back to His Majesty." "Oh, so it's like this?" Si Kongyao turned around and returned to her throne. She smiled and said, "This is what happened. The 400,000-strong army of the Celestial Empire passed through the Fire Element Province, burning and looting everywhere. For the safety of the people and the common people, I ordered the Bai Zhe mercenaries to pursue and kill them. However, the enemy was too strong, and we lost every battle. In the end, we lost cities after cities. By the time the army of the Celestial Empire passed by, most of the cities in the Fire Element Province had already fallen. When I wanted to take back the cities, I realized that the Fire Element City had already been occupied by the Demon Spirit Army led by the monster Emperor Nusslayer. However, the Empire's army was exhausted, and it was not a good time to start a war. Therefore, I decided to make peace with the monster Emperor Nusslayer and temporarily let the Demon Spirit tribe live in the Fire Element Province." Borrow. King Lanji couldn't help but laugh. Since the ancient times, there has never been such a ridiculous thing. How can you borrow a city? Moreover, Princess Yao has already lent a quarter of the territory of the Tianji Empire. How can there be such a method? Si Kongyao spread out her hands and smiled. "Then I have no other choice. Anyway, there are 200,000 demon spirits living in the Fire Element City. Nusslayer will personally guard it. If King Lanji thinks that you have the ability to take back the Fire Element Province, then go ahead. Si Kongyao, will not interfere." The corner of King Lanji's mouth twitched a few times. The combat strength of the demon spirit tribe was obvious to everyone. It was impossible to destroy the 200,000 demon spirit army without double the military strength. Moreover, Si Kongyao wasn't just being an alarmist. "Princess, how long have you lent the Fire Element Province?" King Lanji began to look for a way to maneuver. 1 year, Si Kongyao said. 1 year. King Lanji frowned and said, "In that case, 1 year it is. After 1 year, Commander Gong will naturally lead the Empire's army to the Fire Element Province to take back the lost land. At that time, even if the demon spirits are unwilling, they can't do anything." "Of course, Your Highness King Lanji didn't come to Shiping City just for this, right?" "Of course not." King Lanji gently waved her hand and said, "Come, ask for His Majesty's Imperial Edict." An attendant respectfully walked forward with a golden scroll in his hands. Immediately, Liu Bai and the other generals of the Bai Zhe mercenary army knelt down one after another. Si Kongyao also knelt down on one knee on the steps, remaining silent. The attendant said in a clear voice, "The Bai Zhe mercenary army is incomparably brave. They have broken through the enemy and seized the city, raising the national prestige. The Princess of Shiping, Si Kongyao, is both intelligent and brave. She can be called the treasure of the nation. However, the enemy has not been defeated yet. Recently, I heard that the Blackstone Empire has repeatedly wanted to invade our territory. Therefore, I order that Si Kongyao will lead the Bai Zhe mercenary army to attack the northern border of the Liaishan province. The Ministry of War will send 100,000 weapons, 50,000 sets of armor, and 1 million dawn of military provisions within 10 days. Once they arrive, the troops will be dispatched immediately without delay. Si Kongyao raised her head and said, "Accept the imperial edict." "Thank you." King Lan Ji smiled and said, "His Majesty said that as long as the Princess of Shiping captures the land, she and the Bai Zhe mercenary army will be conferred the title of Shiping Princess. If the princess can really attack Qianshan City and conquer the capital of the Blackstone Empire, His Majesty will confer the title of Shiping Princess to her. She will be the first queen with a different surname in the celestial pole continent." "It sounds very good." Si Kongyao raised the corner of her mouth and said, "Your Highness, please go back and tell His Majesty that Si Kongyao will do her best to work for the Tianji Empire. However, please also ask His Majesty to deliver the supplies to us as soon as possible. Now, the Bai Zhe mercenary army lacks people, horses, weapons, and everything else. If His Majesty doesn't give us enough supplies, I'm afraid we won't be able to attack Qianshan City." "Yes, I will tell His Majesty exactly what you said." "Well, thank you. Tonight, there will be a banquet in the Governor Mansion. Your Highness, please do me the honor." "Thank you very much." When King Lan Ji and the others went to the courier house to rest, Si Kongyao gently waved her hand. A group of generals of the Bai Zhe mercenary army dispersed, and Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi also came out from the side hall. "What should we do, Brother Yu?" Si Kongyao's elegant brows knit together slightly as she said, "The Emperor wants me to attack the mountain range province. Isn't this forcing a duck onto a perch? Although the Bai's mercenaries can be considered a strong and well-trained army, attacking Shiwan's nest is tantamount to seeking one's own death. Let alone Shiwan, even the Thunderflame Sex Long Shi would not agree." Lin Muyu couldn't help laughing and said, "You don't have any idea, but I see that you have a well-thought-out plan when you receive the imperial edict. I have to put on an act for others to see." Si Kongyao pouted and inadvertently revealed a girl-next-door look. She walked forward and pulled Lin Muyu's wrist, saying, "No matter what, you, Sister Qin Yin, and Sister Tang Xiaoxi must think of a way before you leave the celestial pole mainland." "There is a way." "Oh? Say it. Say it." Lin Muyu said, "You are far away from Tianji City. You don't need to worry about obeying the imperial edict. You can pretend to obey and cheat them of weapons and provisions. Then, you can use all kinds of reasons to refuse to send troops. In fact, Tianji City can't do anything to you. What are the reasons to refuse? Do you still need me to teach you this? Come, Yao, listen carefully. I will tell you 10,000 reasons. Insufficient weapons, too many soldiers who are not acclimatized to the climate, too many of them are sick, the city is in disrepair, mountain bandits are causing trouble in the provinces, insufficient provisions are prepared, there are rumors in the army that a mutiny is imminent, there are people in the imperial court who want to harm you, your grandfather Sikong is asking you to go back for a meal, the demon monarch's daughter is disloyal and you have to guard against her, the human traffickers are rampant in Shiping City and you have to deal with them, heroes have appeared in various prefectures and you have to recruit them, the grievances of the people need to be appeased, you are in a bad mood, your period is coming, you have a little mood, your appetite is not too good, you are too lazy to move around, the year is not good, it is raining." Lin Muyu rattled off a long list of reasons, which made Si Kongyao's jaw drop and she was dumbfounded. "All right, stop." Si Kongyao held Lin Muyu's wrist and said, "Brother Yu, you are so awesome." Tang Xiaoxi giggled and said, "When it comes to the cultivation of a wily old fox, this guy didn't have so many cunning ideas when he first came to Lanyan City. Look at him now, Xiao Yin, you don't even care about him. If you let him go on like this, how can we control him in the future?" Qin Yin smiled faintly and said, "I can't do anything about this. Just take it that he is smart. In fact, if this method was given to General Feng, he would have come up with more ideas. That's true, they are all wily old foxes. Lin Muyu smiled and said, "All right, don't be busy with personal attacks. It has been 2 months since we came to the celestial pole continent. I don't know if there are any unusual movements in Lanyan City recently. Let's have a good night's sleep tonight and return to Lanyan City early tomorrow morning. As for the celestial pole continent, I will leave it to Yao and Lu Bai." Si Kongyao nodded confidently and said, "Well, don't worry, leave it to me." "Then, when will you come again, brother you?" "The next time you come? I'm afraid you will bring an army of 1 million. "Oh, okay." Si Kongyao's eyes lit up and she smiled and said, "Can brother you really conquer the heart of the celestial pole continent?" "Yes, if you conquer the celestial pole continent, you can be the queen of the whole celestial pole continent and pay taxes to Lanyan City every year." "Queen?" Si Kongyao smiled and said, "I don't have much interest in being a queen, but if brother you wants Yao to be the queen, then I will. But if you guys ascend to the immortal realm, I will also go with you." "Okay, it's a deal." The next morning, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi quietly left the celestial pole continent, as if they had never been there. However, Si Kongyao and the others knew that it was precisely because of Lin Muyu's arrival that Qinyu suffered a great defeat. It was just that Qinyu was currently in his own country, training his troops after suffering a humiliation, so he was completely unaware of this. Songnan Province, Silver Fir City. In spring, hundreds of flowers were in full bloom. This small city was as beautiful as a painting, but after repeated battles, plagues had spread. There were swarms of refugees in the city, and many people were infected. The spiritual medicine department was short of manpower and medicine, so there was no time to save people. As a result, there were piles of white bones on the roadside, which was unbearable to look at. Outside the city, fragrant grass stretched to the sky. Many refugees were lying in the grass, moaning in pain. There were many types of plagues, and each person's illness was different. As a result, the people of the spiritual medicine department were completely helpless. A white-robed young lady from the spiritual medicine department frowned slightly. After diagnosing an old man, her complexion became even more unsightly. "Miss, is there no hope for me?" the emaciated old man asked, panting heavily. "No, there will be hope." The young lady stood up and said to the 2 apprentices of the spiritual medicine department, "Prepare some 7 flavors soup. It might be able to cure them." The 2 apprentices nodded respectfully. "Yes, Administrator Lan Yen." But at this moment, a voice came from behind Lan Yen. "7 flavors soup is useless. This kind of plague that causes blood corruption can only be treated with marrow-cleansing soup that purifies the blood." Lan Yen had followed Chu Yao for many years, but she had never heard of this marrow-cleansing soup. When she turned to look at the person who spoke, she was instantly stunned. The woman who spoke was tall and slender. She wore a gray robe, but it could not hide her beauty that could cause the downfall of nations. The faint arrogance between her brows was also not something an ordinary woman could have. "You are?" Lan Yen asked. "A traveling doctor, Shi Yen." The blazing angel smiled gently, revealing a row of beautiful white teeth. Chapter 971. A traveling healer? Lan Yen frowned slightly. "I've never heard of such a person in the Empire. We only have the spirit medicine department and healers. I've never heard of a traveling healer." If a medicine store is a healer, then a person who carries medicine everywhere to save people is naturally a traveling healer. Shi Yen smiled faintly. It was at this time that an apprentice flew up and whispered into Lan Yan's ear, "Attendant Lan, I've heard of this traveling healer before. There are legends about her from 5 Valleys City to Silver Fir City. People say that a beautiful woman as beautiful as a goddess goes around saving lives, and that she can cure any ailment no matter what it is. This must be her." Lan Yan's eyes lit up. If that's the case, would Miss Shi Yen be willing to work with our spirit medicine department to cure this plague? But Shi Yen shook her head. "No need, I'm used to doing things my own way. It's best if I don't get disturbed. I'll save my people, you guys save yours." Saying so, she turned to leave. Lan Yen hurriedly said, "Wait a moment, Miss Shi Yan. What is it? What is the recipe for this marrow-cleansing soup you speak of? Many of the people here are suffering from this deadly disease. Without a cure, it will be difficult to suppress this plague in a short time." Seeing her sincerity, Shi Yan smiled. "The marrow-cleansing soup is very simple. Boil the roots of purple serpent vine and the petals of peace bloom for 2 hours." "Just purple serpent vine and peace bloom?" Lan Yen bit her lip. "One is a level 2 herb, the other a level 3 herb. It's not that hard to find. But it's difficult to cure so many people because there aren't that many herbs to pick." Shi Yan stared at Lan Yen, speaking indifferently. "The national treasuries are unwilling to allocate gold coins to buy herbs to treat the refugees. To the local authorities, refugees are a burden and might as well die. Miss, they call you attendant, so it seems that you're also one of the stewards. Do you have the authority to obtain herbs from the pharmacists in the various cities?" It was obvious that this traveling doctor had been rejected many times. Lan Yen couldn't help but feel a little guilty. "Don't worry, Miss Shi Yan. I am one of the 12 deacons of the Imperial Spirit Medicine Department. My medallion is enough to command all the pharmacies in the area. As for the ingredients, I can use whatever they have. If you don't believe me, you can come with me to Silver Fir City. I've never brewed this marrow-cleansing soup before. If you truly care about the people of the world, then please come with me. We will be brewing the soup in large cauldrons at the 4 city gates of Silver Fir City." This. Shi Yan remained silent. "What? Don't you want to save more people?" Lan Yen asked. Shi Yan pursed her lips. Actually, when she first came to the Shattered Cauldron realm, she was simply at a loss and didn't know what to do. After seeing so many refugees, she decided to play the role of a quack doctor for fun. However, after experiencing so many things in the past 2 months, Shi Yan increasingly felt that she was leading a stable life. It turned out that saving people was more interesting than killing them. "In that case, I'll come with you. But I'll leave once you learn how to brew the marrow-cleansing soup. And I'll be sure to listen to you when the time comes. Get on the horses and enter the city." Lan Yen led a group of 50 light cavalry. This cavalry was responsible for protecting the employees of the Spirit Medicine Department. After all, the aftermath of the war was extremely chaotic. Bandits were rampant, and medicinal ingredients were scarce and valuable. Those bandits were willing to do anything just to steal a few ingredients. Almost every Spirit Medicine Department deacon on patrol was accompanied by a group like this. With an army by their side, it was much more convenient. Inside Silver Fir City, Lan Yen led the army straight to the city lord's mansion. Everyone wore the insignia of Lan Yen City's Qin family, so naturally no one dared to stop them. That was until they saw a fat man dressed in official robes. This humble official, the governor of Silver Fir City, Zhang Qian, greets Deacon Lan Yen. The fat man cupped his hands in greeting. In truth, everyone in Silver Fir City knew that Zhang Qian was originally just a local medicine merchant. Silver Fir City was close to the 7-star forest and had an abundance of medicinal ingredients. It was through selling medicine that Zhang Qian had made a fortune. In the end, he had bought the title of Silver Fir City's city lord from a certain official of the parliament. Moreover, the status of the city lord of Silver Fir City was definitely above that of the Spirit Medicine Department's deacons. At the very least, they were equal, but Zhang Qian was extremely respectful towards them. There was no other reason for this. He knew Lan Yen because she was the Spirit Medicine Department's chief deacon Chu Yao, and Chu Yao was Lin Muyu and Qin Yin. A word from Lan Yen was probably worth more than 10,000 Jin Yin coins. The fat man raised his head and saw Shi Yan behind Lan Yen. He couldn't help but frown. "Why are you here again?" Shi Yan's eyes were indifferent and she didn't say a word. Lan Yen asked, "What is it, Lord Zhang knows Miss Shi Yan?" "Deacon, you may not know this, but for the past half a month, this woman has been coming to me every few days to ask for medicinal ingredients. She says that she wants to treat the refugees." How can there be so many people who want to be treated? She's clearly trying to swindle my medicinal ingredients and sell them for money. Has the city lord not left the city to take a look at the refugees outside? Lan Yan narrowed her beautiful eyes. It was obvious that Zhang Qian hadn't left the city to take a look. Lan Yan couldn't be bothered to waste her breath on him. Lord Zhang, how many medicinal ingredients do we have in Silver Fir City's storehouse? We have enough. Very good. Please give me 500 kilograms of purple serpent vine and 500 kilograms of peace bloom immediately. Also, give me 40 cauldrons to boil medicine in. This. Zhang Qian was shocked. Using so many resources, I'm afraid. What are you afraid of? I will sign the receipt. Are you saying that the medicinal ingredients stored in Silver Fir City storehouse are not meant to be used to save people? Lan Yan looked at the fatty with a burning gaze. If they are not, I will report it to Her Majesty the Empress. No. Zhang Qian shook his head repeatedly. This lowly official will give them to the deacon. That's good. I will wait for you in the Spirit Medicine Department's tent outside the eastern city gates. Yes, this lowly official will make the arrangements immediately. Zhang Qian bowed deeply, but when he raised his head, he shot a venomous look at Shi Yan. This woman was definitely the reason he had lost such a large fortune. If he had sold off these medicinal ingredients, he would have earned thousands of Jin-in coins at the very least. Shi Yan, on the other hand, was extremely calm. She looked back at Zhang Qian without a ripple in her eyes. By dusk, the medicinal soup had already begun to be boiled at the 4 city gates. Lan Yan and Shi Yan personally distributed bowls of soup to the refugees, one for each person. It was more than enough to cure the plague of the deadly blood plague. They busied themselves until late at night. By then, most of the refugees had drunk the medicine, and many of their conditions had rapidly improved. Lan Yan arranged for Shi Yan to stay in the most remote tent in the Spirit Medicine Department because Shi Yan didn't want to be disturbed. Shi Yan would leave at daybreak, and she didn't want to be tied down by anyone. In the middle of the night, Shi Yan lay peacefully in the tent. Her divine power had dried up, but her spirit sense and consciousness were still there. She could even hear the sound of the spring rain nourishing all living things. It was so real. It had been many years since she had been so close to the earth. Shi Yan suddenly felt her heart calm down. Hugging the warm quilt, she curled up like a cute shrimp and slept soundly. After an unknown amount of time, a flurry of footsteps suddenly came from the distance. Shi Yan abruptly woke up. Her consciousness had sensed a murderous aura. This murderous aura was coming from the direction of Silver Fir City, and there were quite a few of them. Could they be coming for me? Suddenly, Shi Yan recalled Zhang Qian's venomous gaze during the day. That's right, it must be him. Sitting up from the bed, she calmly put on her clothes and put on the gray cloak that she bought with 4 silver coins. Then she raised her hand and gripped her sword, Burning Moon. Crash! The flaps to the small tent were suddenly lifted open, revealing the face of a black-faced man. The moment he saw Shi Yan, he immediately thrust his sword forward without even a greeting. But after a muffled grunt, he took several steps back and fell to the ground. There was a bloody hole in his neck. His throat had been pierced by a sword. Damn it! The other dozen or so people had ashen faces. When they looked up, they saw Shi Yan slowly walking out of the tent. You want to kill me? Shi Yan smiled. That's right. You ruined my plans, and now you've killed one of my men. I had wanted to take you as a concubine, but it looks like I can't keep you around anymore. The one who spoke was a fatty dressed in bulky armor. It didn't take a genius to know that it was Zhang Qian. Zhang Qian was a merchant, and not only was he greedy for profit, but he was also lustful. There was no doubt that a top-grade mature lady like Shi Yan was fatally attractive, but Shi Yan had been so decisive in killing him just now. Although the fatty was lustful, he was still deadly. Go! Kill her! A group of bodyguards disguised as assassins charged forward. Although Shi Yan had lost her divine power, her swordsmanship and mental cultivation were still there. Blazing Moon began to hum in her hand. Just who was she? She was a blazing angel of the god realm, and her will was unwavering. Good people must be saved, and bad people must be killed. Blazing Moon swung out, its edge releasing countless rays of light. It was Shi Yan's 7 slashes, split. Blood splattered everywhere. Shi Yan might not be a match for a god realm or even a saint realm expert, but against these mortals who were at most in the earth realm, she was simply a crushing existence. As soon as Blazing Moon appeared, more than 10 people died tragically in an instant. Zhang Qian was horrified, and he turned around to leave without thinking. But how could he leave? Shi Yan caught up with him as fast as lightning, and Blazing Moon went straight through Zhang Qian's heart. Murder, murder. A group of bodyguards retreated in a panic. In the blink of an eye, torches were raised on the official road, and the cavalry in the city was actually already there. White drill arrows were pointed straight at Shi Yan, and everyone was ready to fight. Shi Yan was silent, and her heart was a little perturbed. Was she going to fail miserably here? These white drill arrows were quite powerful, and she had already experienced them from a hunter. At this moment, a voice rang out, "Stop!" The person who spoke was Lan Yen, a deacon from the spiritual medicine department in the capital. Chapter 972. There was a brigadier general among the cavalry who wore a silver 3-star emblem around his neck. He commanded about 500 men and commanded about 500 men. He urged his horse forward and raised his eyebrows. "Attendant Lan, you are a lord of the Spirit Medicine Division, but I advise you to stay out of Cathaya City's military affairs. This woman killed the city lord, and we must punish her severely according to the law." Several soldiers carried Zhang Qian's corpse over. A sword had pierced through his throat, and it was a fatal wound. Lan Yen frowned and said, "Why is Lord Zhang wearing a black knight suit? Why did you sneak into the Spirit Medicine Department's camp?" The brigadier general was taken aback for a moment before replying, "I don't know, but since this woman killed the city lord, we must arrest her. I know that Deacon Lan has a friendship with her, but I hope that Deacon Lan doesn't get involved in this matter. This is not something you should concern yourself with." Lan Yen said indifferently, "Shi Yan is a doctor. As a doctor, why would she kill someone on a whim? I believe there must be a reason behind this. Why don't I take Shi Yan back to Lan Yen City and hand her over to the Firefinch department to investigate? What do you think, General?" "That won't do. Silver Fir City's matters should be handled by the garrison." The brigadier general didn't seem to hold back. He waved his hand and said, "Men, tie up this traveling doctor." A group of cavalrymen pulled out their swords and quickly surrounded Shi Yan. However, the blazing moon in Shi Yan's hand emitted a scorching light, forcing the group of people to retreat. Even the 6 dazzling wings behind Shi Yan were faintly discernible. "Who dares touch me?" Shi Yan's eyes were cold. "These people wanted to assassinate me, so I killed them. Come at me if you don't want to live. I'll kill every single one of you." Lan Yen gaped. At this moment, Shi Yan didn't look like a traveling doctor at all. She looked more like a goddess of war. Just at that moment, the sound of galloping horses could be heard from the distance. Before the horses could catch up, a figure broke through the spatial barrier and appeared in the middle of everyone. It was a divine-level expert. She wore a white robe and had an exquisite and beautiful figure. If it wasn't Chu Yao, who else could it be? "What is it?" Chu Yao looked around. "What brings you here, Grand Administrator?" Lan Yen was overjoyed. Chu Yao frowned. "I heard that the plague in Cathaya City is very serious and is spreading to the north, so I came to take a look. What's going on here?" The brigadier general and the others also recognized Chu Yao. The chief administrator of the Spirit Medicine Department was someone who attended every court meeting. She was an important existence in the Empire's 6 ministries and 3 ministries. "Greetings, Grand Administrator." The brigadier general quickly got off his horse and knelt down. He knew very well how important Chu Yao was in Lanyan City. She wasn't just a simple Grand Administrator, but someone close to Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Feng Jixing. She was an insider who wielded real power in the Empire. It was best not to provoke such a person unless one was tired of living. "You still haven't told me what's going on." Chu Yao glanced at Shi Yan, then at Lan Yen. "Yen, what's going on?" Shi Yan looked at Chu Yao with a condescending gaze. Although Shi Yan wasn't as strong as Chu Yao, who was a divine realm expert, she was many times stronger in terms of mental cultivation. Lan Yen bowed. Great Deacon, the deadly blood disease has basically been cured. Cured? What happened? Chu Yao was stunned. It's the help of a traveling doctor named Shi Yan. She provided us with a prescription and decocted the medicine according to the prescription. The epidemic has basically been controlled. A traveling doctor? Chu Yao looked at Shi Yan in astonishment. The surname was very strange. She had only heard of the surname Shi once. It was Qin Yin's name in Lingnan Xing. However, she seemed to have heard of the name Shi Yan before, but Chu Yao couldn't remember where she heard it. Moreover, Shi Yan didn't look like a local. She had a head of light blonde hair and a figure that made Chu Yao a little jealous. To be honest, very few women in the Shattered Cauldron realm had such a figure. At the same time, when Chu Yao's eyes met Shi Yan's, she felt like she was looking into a vast domain. She couldn't see through Shi Yan's depths at all. This kind of person wasn't simple. It was best to be cautious. And so, Chu Yao became respectful. Many thanks to Miss Shi Yan for controlling the plague for Kathaya City. Chu Yao thanks Miss Shi Yan on behalf of all the people of the world. Shi Yan raised her eyebrows. She found this rather amusing. This Chu Yao didn't look like a low official, but she wasn't as arrogant as the others. She nodded. There's no need to be so polite, Chu Yao. It was at this moment that the Brigadier General frowned. Great Attendant, this Miss Shi Yan killed Lord Zhang Qian and a dozen or so brothers of Kathaya City not too long ago. Their corpses are all here, and we have both witnesses and evidence. Chu Yao's gaze swept across the scene. She was extremely intelligent and immediately understood the reason behind it. Zhang Qian must have tried to kill Shi Yan because of her beauty or some other unspeakable reason, but Shi Yan had killed him in the end. This kind of person's death wasn't something to be regretted, and there was no need to pay any attention to him. Thus, Chu Yao consoled, "Do not worry, General. I will personally bring Shi Yan to Lanyan City and hand her over to Lord Xiao Han of Firefinch Bureau. If you are still worried, you can come with me to the capital." The Brigadier General was taken aback. He hurriedly cupped his fists. "There's no need. I trust you, Great Attendant. Please make the decision." He had also done a lot of shady things with Zhang Qian in private, and these kinds of people were most afraid of meeting people like Xiao Han of the Fire Sparrow Division. If they went to meet Xiao Han together, it was possible that before they could avenge Zhang Qian, Xiao Han might find out about their own dirty secrets. "Then, let's do it this way," Chu Yao said indifferently. "We will depart at dawn and return to Lanyan City. It just so happens that you and Her Highness Yin should be returning as well." "Yes, Great Attendant," everyone replied in unison. Shi Yan smiled faintly. She had heard it clearly. The Her Highness Yin that Chu Yao spoke of was probably Xin, wasn't it? It had been a long time since she had seen her younger sister, and it actually made Shi Yan a little nervous. At daybreak, they sped along the official road back to Lanyan City. They had arrived after 2 days and 2 nights of travel. February 8th, Lanyan City. Not long after Chu Yao and the rest entered the spiritual medicine department, they heard the news that the Empress Qin Yin had returned to Zetian Palace Hall. As such, Chu Yao brought Shi Yan, Lan Yan, and the rest to Zetian Palace Hall before they could even have lunch. The staff of the spiritual medicine department knew some martial arts, so even a weak girl like Lan Yan knew how to ride a horse. The group of people rode tall horses on the bustling streets of Tongtian Street, and it was particularly eye-catching. Shi Yan, on the other hand, looked at everything around her with a gloomy gaze. She found it hard to believe that this was the city that Shi Yin had ruled over. It was indeed incomparably prosperous. Even if it was compared to the most prosperous city under the rule of the Western God Realm, it would not lose out to the most prosperous city under the rule of the Western God Realm. The commoners, on the other hand, looked at them with astonishment and respect. The plague was rampant in the empire, and it was this group of white-robed staff of the spiritual medicine department who were running around the borders of the plague. They had long won the respect of the people. Furthermore, many of these staff were young and beautiful women, and they were simply too eye-catching. Zetian Palace Hall was as dignified and solemn as ever. When Chu Yao brought Shi Yan into the main hall, The guards outside the hall slowly rang the bell 3 times. Inside the hall, it wasn't court time. Qin Yin, Lin Muyu, and Tang Xiaoxi were still wearing the clothes they wore in the celestial pole continent. When they heard that Chu Yao had something to discuss with them, they came out to welcome her. Qin Yin's eyes were still closed. Supported by Tang Xiaoxi, she walked over. She couldn't capture Shi Yan's aura because Shi Yan's aura was too weak at the moment, no different from that of an ordinary person. Lin Muyu took another look at Shi Yan. He never knew that there was such a beauty in Lanyan City. Shi Yan also saw Lin Muyu. Sure enough, she was as handsome as the rumors said. Moreover, there was a faint sense of righteousness between her brows. This kind of righteousness was probably rare in the lower realms, even in the immortal realm. But when he thought of the Western divine realm, which pursued power at all costs, Shi Yan couldn't help but laugh at himself. Staring at Lin Muyu with her beautiful eyes, Shi Yan raised her index finger to her lips, signaling him not to speak. Lin Muyu didn't know what was going on. If he didn't want to speak, then so be it. Anyway, Shi Yan's aura wasn't that strong, so there was no need to worry. Sister Chu Yao, why did you come to us in such a hurry? Qin Yin smiled. I wanted to bring someone to see you. Your Highness, you can open your eyes. But Qin Yin hesitated for a moment. After all, her eyes of blazing light were rarely seen by others. At this moment, Shi Yan smiled faintly and said, It's okay. Open your eyes. Qin Yin's body trembled. She remembered Shi Yan's voice. Her eyelashes kept trembling and jumping. When she opened her eyes of blazing light, she saw Shi Yan's beautiful face. Sister Haiyan. Qin Yin was stunned. Shi Yan nodded and smiled. How is it? It's surprising, right? Qin Yin walked forward while trembling. She held Shi Yan's hands gently and said, But why is your cultivation gone? Sister Haiyan, what's going on? 2 streams of tears flowed down her eyes. Qin Yin knew how important Shi Yan's cultivation was. I'm fine, silly girl. Shi Yan wiped her tears lovingly. Lin Muyu frowned and said, Lady Shi Yan, did you destroy your own divine pact? Otherwise, you wouldn't have lost your cultivation. Shi Yan nodded and didn't deny it at all. She said, I went to the heaven realm without permission and violated the divine pact. My cultivation was taken by the law of heaven and earth. But this is also good. Also, don't call me lady. Call me sister. I'm Xian's sister. You should take after her. Okay, Sister Xian. Hee. That's right. It feels good to have a younger brother. Lin Muyu wasn't in the mood to joke. She said, Sister Xian, you went to the heaven realm and lost your cultivation. That means you betrayed the Western divine realm. Aren't you afraid that Claude will send people to kill you? I am. That's why I came to find you. With you guys protecting me, I'll be safe. Chapter 973. Actually, even if Claude doesn't chase after you, you're still in danger. Lin Muyu said, in the plane where the celestial pole continent and the shattered cauldron realm are located, there are still quite a number of perfected gods, and all of them are from the celestial pole continent, right? Shi Yan nodded and smiled. When I just arrived, I sensed the auras of 7 perfected god the Arch Realm experts. They are indeed in the east, not in the shattered cauldron realm. 7 auras? Qin Yin was slightly stunned. Why are there so many? Lin Muyu pondered for a while and said, Sikong Ming from the Tianji sect, Han Yuan from the Celestial Empire, Longxi from the Thunderblaze sect, and Nushi from the Demon Emperor. These 4 are all god thearchs above the 90th level. The other 3 auras should be from the Wolf Valley and the Thunder Soul tribe, the 2 hidden forces of the celestial pole continent. However, they don't participate in the war, so we don't have to consider them for the time being. Shi Yan said softly, there are so many strong enemies. No wonder the shattered cauldron realm is fighting so hard. As she spoke, Shi Yan's gaze landed on Tang Xiaoxi, and she couldn't help but praise. Such strong fire law of divinity and demonic energy. This young lady must be Tang Xiaoxi, right? Yes, it's me. Greetings, Sister Haiyan. You're welcome. Tang Xiaoxi was naturally lively and cute. Perhaps Shi Yan was influenced by her. After sizing up Tang Xiaoxi, she said, "Xiao Shi, your cultivation is probably the fastest between you and Xin. In less than a year, your godhead will definitely evolve into a fire law over godhead." Tang Xiaoxi opened her mouth wide. Really? How could this be fake? Shi Yan smiled. Although I have lost my cultivation, my eyes are definitely not wrong. The power of your forged immortal lattice has already greatly surpassed that of an ordinary forged immortal lattice. I can feel a scorching power even before the power is released. This is a sign of evolving into a master god lattice. As long as you work hard, you will be able to achieve it in a single step. Alright, thank you for your kind words, Sister Hein. Qin Yin said, since you've come to the mortal world, you can live with us in the future. In this way you, Xiao Shi, and Sister Chu Yao can ask you if there's anything we don't understand in cultivation. Shi Yan chuckled. Since I'm here, I don't plan on leaving. Besides, there's no place for me in the three realms. How can that be? This shattered cauldron realm will be your home in the future. Okay. Someone, Jingyue, give the order to clean up a bright and spacious room in the Phoenix Perching Hall. Sister Hein can live next to me. Yes, Your Highness. By the way, where are Terralin, Lake, and Zhou Shimin? They're in seclusion. Qin Yin couldn't help but feel a little guilty. After all, Shi Yan used to be a blazing angel, and Terralin and the other two had openly betrayed the Western Heaven realm. According to Shi Yan's temper, it would be strange if she didn't beat them up. Why are they in seclusion? Let them come out to see me. I want to lecture them. Okay. Qin Yin arranged for the imperial chef to make a sumptuous lunch while inviting Terralin and the others out of seclusion. As a result, a large table of sumptuous lunch was set up in the back hall of the Zetian Palace at noon. It was as if they were celebrating the New Year's Eve festival. When Terralin and the others arrived, they saw that Shi Yan was also there. They immediately fell silent. Even Terralin, who would usually be killed by delicious food, was quiet. She sat there dignified and didn't dare to say a word. Why don't you look up at me, you three? Shi Yan smiled lightly. Terralin stood up and quickly bowed. Lady Shi Yan, we know our mistakes. You also know your mistakes? Shi Yan was so angry that she gritted her teeth and said, aren't you afraid of dragging down your respective families? You're running amok here. Fortunately, the Western Divine Realm is in a mess right now and we need the strength of your three great families. Otherwise, your fathers will definitely be dragged down by you and they might even lose their lives. Father is fine? Terralin was pleasantly surprised. Yes, he's fine for the time being. There have been hundreds of rebellions and wars at the border of the heavenly realm. The ruler has ordered the major families to suppress them, so he won't do anything to them for the time being. Terralin was overjoyed. She cautiously asked, then, Lady Shi Yan, have you really given up your identity as a seraph and voluntarily become immortal? Yes, I'm not a god anymore. Shi Yan looked at the delicious food in front of her and smiled. Being a mortal seems to be much happier than being an immortal. I finally understand why Xin and you are unwilling to ascend. No way. Terralin pointed at Qin Yin and Lin Muyu and smiled. Don't even mention how bitter these two have been in the lower realm. Not only were they forced to flee by the army of the Celestial Pole continent, but in the end, they were also bullied by a group of trash in the Congress. I'm dying of laughter. These gods of the mortal realm have so many rules. For the sake of the common people, they are unwilling to kill. If it were me, the 500,000 soldiers of the Congress would definitely kill them all. Qin Yin stared at her speechlessly. Even meat can't stop your mouth. That's not called rules, that's called foundation. The foundation left by our ancestors can't be abandoned just because we say so. This is a responsibility. Once we complete our mission, we will go to the divine realm. This is something that I, you, and Xiao Shi have already agreed on. Lin Muyu said, originally, if Sister Xian, the top god emperor of the 99 heavenly caves, came to help us, we would be able to unify the plane with much less effort, but now it seems. This road is still very long. Shi Yan curled her lips. At this moment, a voice came from the sky. Not necessarily. With a schwa sound, a ray of golden light fell from the sky and directly poured a few meters away from the dining table. On the surface of the floor tiles, Dharma images and wheels appeared, and in the blink of an eye, they gathered to form a beautiful figure. It was actually Ziyao of the East Heaven. This time, the one who came was a genuine God Emperor expert of the 99 Heavenly Caves Great Garden. Shi Yan was stunned. She turned around and stood up from her seat, and looked at Ziyao. Long time no see, Shi Yan. Ziyao smiled lightly. Shi Yan also smiled. Fairy Ziyao, long time no see. This time, you came here to kill me or? Kill you? Ziyao smiled. Why would I? We have been enemies and friends for so many years. Now that you are Xiao Yin's sister, you will only be our friend, and this time, I came to help you. Oh! Lin Muyu stood up and said, Sister Ziyao, let's not talk about this. Come and eat with us. Ziyao's celestial aura was reduced to that of a mortal by her words. Is there anything delicious? It's all delicious. Oh, therefore, Ziyao joined them at the lunch. While eating, Lin Muyu asked, Sister Ziyao said that you will help us. How do you want to help us? Ziyao said, although your cultivation progress is very fast among the gods of the mortal world, it is still too slow for us. Once the gods of the celestial pole land wake up, and the western divine realm may send gods down, I am afraid that Lanyan City will be destroyed. Therefore, after discussing with the Demon Emperor, I decided to send you to another plane to train and improve your cultivation. Of course, the main reason I came here is for Shi Yan. For me? Shi Yan was slightly stunned. Yes. Ziyao nodded and said, the divine pact was made by the two of us together. Logically, we should bear the punishment together, but Shi Yan, for Xiao Yin, you alone bear this price that even the gods can't bear. Demon Emperor and I have decided to find a way to help you recover the cultivation that was taken away by the laws of heaven and earth. Can we really do that? Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi asked together. Shi Yan was silent. She knew how difficult it was. Why not? Ziyao smiled. Right now, Shi Yan's body is like a dry lake. Although her power has been completely taken away, the lake is still there. What we need to do is to irrigate the lake with water. This will replenish your power. No, it's useless. Shi Yan shook her head. I've tried to refine divine power again, but many times, the little bit of divine power I refined would quickly disperse into the world. My body can no longer hold any divine power. That's right. But this is the divine power you refined in the three realms. It will naturally disperse according to the laws of the divine pact. But what if you didn't cultivate it in the three realms? Will it still disperse according to the laws of the divine pact? Shi Yan was shocked. Ziyao, what do you mean by that? I want to say that I'll send you, Xiao Yin, and Xiao Shi to another realm outside the three realms to train. I wonder if Shi Yan is willing? Can I really recover my divine power? Yes. Ziyao looked at her sincerely and said, even if I want to harm you, I will never harm you and Xiao Yin, right? Qin Yin said, Sister Haiyan, let's go. Shi Yan lost her cultivation for Qin Yin. Qin Yin already felt very guilty about it. Now that there was a chance for her to repay it, she was naturally willing. Shi Yan narrowed her eyes. From what I know, other than the sky beyond heaven, there is no other place outside the three realms, right? No, there is. It's north of the East Heaven, a crack at the extreme of heaven and earth. The primordial wilderness? That's right. Shi Yan was shocked. No, Xin and Yu's physique can't withstand the impact of passing through the crack. Unless they are in the God Emperor realm, they will definitely be devoured by the profound energy in the crack. Moreover, the primordial wilderness is completely different from where we are. If we go there, who knows how long it will take for us to return. This is absolutely not possible. But what if I have this? Ziyao gently opened her palm. Light instantly appeared, and a huge wheel appeared between her hands. The wheel was engraved with a scale and some incomprehensible golden characters. The Northern Region Wheel? Xian was shocked. Isn't this the divine artifact that the Northern Divine Realm has lost for tens of thousands of years? That's right. Ziyao chuckled. This is something I accidentally discovered in the primordial desolate ruins. If I use the Northern Heavenly Wheel to send the four of you to the primordial desolate land, it will be equivalent to opening up a completely different space. Furthermore, I can use the scale of the Northern Heavenly Wheel to make the 10 years you spend in the primordial desolate divine realm just 1 year in the shattered cauldron realm. Lin Muyu couldn't help but slap the table in astonishment. Go, go, go. Don't stop me. Shi Yen. Qin Yin. Chapter 974. However, going to the primordial god realm isn't that simple. I've just said that the primordial god realm is still a part of the Eastern Heaven realm. Moreover, it's located in a distant land at the border of the Eastern Heaven realm. The first requirement to go to the primordial god realm is to be in the divine realm. Xiao took a deep look at everyone and said, in short, if you want to go to the ancient god realm to practice, you must first ascend to the Eastern Heaven realm and enter the divine book of the Eastern Heaven realm before you can go to the ancient god realm. Ascend? Lin Muyu was stunned. Her overall plan was going to be disrupted. She originally planned to deal with everything in the mortal realm and turn the Qin Empire into a benign regime under the control of the parliament before leaving. She did not expect that Ziyao would want them to ascend to the heaven realm now. Ziyao also figured out what Lin Muyu meant, so she smiled and said, in fact, it is very simple. After ascending to the divine realm, you can still descend to the mortal realm, just like me. But every time you descend to the mortal realm, your cultivation will be weakened by a part. But the higher your cultivation, the less the reduction will be. For example, it will take me about half a month to recover the lost cultivation. For ordinary gods, D. Lin will lose 10% to 20% of their cultivation. The cultivation of the four of you is not bad. The cost of returning to the mortal realm is at most 3 to 5 months of cultivation. So, have you decided? Qin Yi nodded gently. I have no problem with it. Tang Xiaoxi also said, I will go with Xiao Yin and Mu. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Shi Yen has now lost her divine power. Can she still withstand the impact of the flowing light? Moreover, Shi Yen has no divine power now. Can she ascend? Shi Yen smiled with a resolute look in her eyes. Although I don't have my divine power, my Qi still retains a part of my cultivation before I broke the contract. Just this cultivation alone is enough for me to ascend. Moreover, even though I don't have my divine power, I still have my godhead. My body is also a divine body that has been tempered by divine power. The impact of the flowing light won't hurt me at all. Lin Muyu was still in disbelief and looked at Ziyao. Ziyao pursed her lips and smiled. Don't worry, I will protect you when you ascend. There won't be any mistakes. A 99th stage Grotto Heaven God Emperor personally protecting you during your ascension isn't something an ordinary deity can enjoy. Thank you, Big Sister Ziyao. Lin Muyu nodded and said, however, we still have some unfinished business in the Shattered Cauldron realm. So, you have to wait for us for 3 days. After we have finished our business, we can ascend without any distractions. All right. Within 3 days, Lin Muyu went back and forth to solve all kinds of conflicts between the National Assembly, the Longdan Army Camp, and the Imperial Guards. She also temporarily appeased Zhuang Yan, Su Chengjing, and the others. At least, Wei Chou, Feng Jixing, and the others would not dare to act rashly in the capital. At this time, the Longdan Army Camp had recovered to its original size of 100,000 people, and the Imperial Guards also had 80,000 people. In terms of combat power, they were far above the National Army. Now that the National Army was restless, it was already good enough that the Longdan Army Camp and the Imperial Guards didn't deal with them. Qin Yin personally commanded the martial arts practice in the sacred martial palace. As the largest place to provide talents in the empire, the sacred martial palace couldn't be neglected. With the female empress personally teaching, The staff of the sacred martial palace were naturally flattered and became more active. Tang Xiaoxi made a trip to the Forest of Infinity to meet Tang Zhen and Ling Huyen. She arranged the affairs of the National Army and the Demon Race Army for a year. This way, even if Tang Xiaoxi wasn't around, there wouldn't be any major problems in the Forest of Infinity. Within 3 days, Lin Muyu and Qin Yin were also invited by the Department of Weapons of the Ministry of Works to watch the first steam-powered car in operation. Early in the morning, the spring mist permeated the sky above Lanyan City. Amidst the sound of horse hooves, Lin Muyu and the others arrived at the spacious testing ground of the Department of Weapons. Even Shi Yan and Ziyao came. The officials of the Department of Weapons knelt on both sides and were extremely respectful. Xiling, are you ready? Lin Muyu asked. Qin Xiling was nearing middle age, but his forehead was full and his face glowed with health. The age when his career was at its peak was also his best years. He smiled smugly and said, "Yes, I'm ready. Marshal Lin, do you want to order them to drive over now?" Qin Xiling nodded and raised his arm. Beat the drum. Dong dong dong. After 3 beats of the drum, a "2-2-2" sound came from afar. A big guy appeared in the fog. It was a super-sized steam-powered car. It didn't look like a car at all. It was almost as big as the giant elephant in the Forest of Dragons. 2 soldiers were constantly adding coal to the stove. Thick steam rose. The car's 4 huge wheels rolled over the ground. Its speed wasn't slow, at least 80 kilometers per hour. "Is this the normal speed?" Lin Muyu asked. Qin Xiling said, "On flat ground, it might be faster, but not by much. The stove is not strong enough." "Can this machine operate for a long time?" "It can," Qin Xiling said confidently. "I've studied it with teacher Luojia. The material used to cast the steam engine is the precious 1,000-year black iron. It can withstand high temperature and is extremely tough. It won't be a problem even if it burns for a day and a night." "Oh." Lin Muyu calculated quickly. At a speed of 80 kilometers per hour, it'll be 800 kilometers in 10 hours. In 24 hours, it'll be close to 2,000 kilometers. Excluding the bumpy roads along the way, plus the slower speed after transporting the goods, it should be able to travel 1,000 kilometers a day. In 5 days, we can deliver the goods from Lanyan City to Winterfrost City. Based on the speed we use to transport the military provisions with carriages, it'll take us at least a month to reach Winterfrost City. It's too fast. Qin Xiling smiled and said, "That's right. However, there are still many difficulties. For example, we have to widen all the official roads in the Empire and build roads exclusively for steam-powered cars. In addition, we have to build coal stations along the way. Otherwise, the steam-powered cars will lose their power due to the lack of coal. All of these will require a lot of time and resources." "I know. Just cooperate with the Ministry of Works Minister on this matter." Lin Muyu glanced around. The Ministry of Works Minister not far away immediately cupped his fists and said, "Please rest assured, Lin General. I'll do my best to help Lord Qin Xiling complete all the tasks." "And that's good." Lin Muyu looked at the speeding car and could not help but say proudly, "How is it, Ziyao Xiyan? Our mortal realm's motorcycles look very mighty, don't they?" Ziyao pursed her lips into a smile and did not say anything. On the other hand, Xiyan narrowed her beautiful eyes and said, "Oh, I remember that a certain plane in the Western Divine Realm has already started to use a type of hover motorcycles. Some use electromagnetic motorcycles. There are even some planes that have developed technology to the point where warships can travel at hyperspace speed. In comparison, this steam-powered car that you guys developed, is indeed very ornamental. It feels like looking at an antique." Lin Muyu rubbed her nose angrily. "Why don't you take a look at what this plane was like before? It was an agricultural era, and now there is a steam-powered car. I can be considered to have pushed technology forward by 100 years. Then you still need to popularize electricity." Shi Yan laughed softly. "Otherwise, if electronic technology does not develop, I'm afraid that they will still be stuck in the steam era for several hundred years. And that makes sense." "What kind of nonsense is that?" Shi Yan raised her beautiful eyebrows and said, "Do you think popularizing technology like this is really a good thing?" "Why not?" Shi Yan said, "I have seen many planes with very advanced technology, but the physique and cultivation of humans are constantly deteriorating. They rely too much on technology, so much so that they neglect their own cultivation. Such planes are indeed very powerful against outsiders, but if 10 great perfection realm god emperors appear at the same time, they can more or less destroy the entire plane. The gods of the divine realm are well versed in the technological level of each plane, but each plane knows nothing about the power of the gods. That is the reason why they are ruled." "Very reasonable." Lin Muyu nodded. "Perhaps what you said is very right, so this is also the biggest reason why Shattered Cauldron Realm needs Sister Xian to recover your power. Right now, we really need a blazing angel to be our spokesperson. Only then will we not be afraid of the group of god emperors in the celestial pole continent. For the sake of this plane, you have really put in a lot of effort. I have no choice. The previous emperor of this plane recognized me as his godson. One must finish what he started. I can't just pat my butt and not care about anything else after ascending. I can't do something like that. No wonder Xin likes you so much." Qin Yin. On the 4th day, the appointed time arrived and everyone was about to ascend. Feng Jixing, Qin Yan, Citizen, Wei Chou, Chu Yao, Ouyang Yan, Chu Chu, and the others were all present. After all, the few people who were ascending this time were really too important. Even Empress Qin Yin had ascended together with them, so how could they not be worried? The most important thing was that no one knew what the primordial god realm was like. What if they couldn't return? Therefore, Feng Jixing kept muttering in his heart, "What if Ayu and Her Highness Ing don't come back? Should I just slip away and ascend, or continue to fight with the celestial pole continent?" At the thought of fighting, Feng Jixing's scalp went numb. "Lin General, you have to come back soon." Wei Chou said. Sidu Shui's eyes were red. "Sir, you and Her Highness must come back." Sidu Sun pressed his hand on the hilt of his sword and said, "Can't you let the marshal ascend with peace of mind?" "Lin General, don't worry. If you really can't come back, I will take care of Great Deacon Chu Yao, Ouyang Yan, Jin Xiaotang, and Lady Qianxian of Hundred Flowers Tower. You won't have any worries." Immediately, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi shot burning gazes at Lin Muyu. "Who is Lady Qianxian?" Lin Muyu cried bitterly in her heart. If she knew this would happen, she wouldn't have followed Situ Sen and Wei Qiu to the brothel. She hurriedly explained, "It's just a dancer, I didn't do anything, listen to me." "Explain my ass." The scene was chaotic, but Xiao coughed and controlled the situation. "Stop fooling around. The few of you, think about ascending in your heart, then choose the heavenly gate that belongs to the Eastern Heaven Realm and fly in." Chapter 975. That's it. Of course. Let's begin. Lin Muyu closed her eyes and silently chanted, "Ascend." Suddenly, a mysterious force spread out in the sky. When Lin Muyu opened her eyes, she saw 4 dazzling golden gates above her head. The Western Divine Realm Heavenly Gate with angel wings, the Eastern Divine Realm Heavenly Gate with an ancient divine dragon circling around it, the Northern Divine Realm Gate guarded by a snow lion, and the Southern Divine Realm Gate guarded by a golden python totem. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's jaws dropped in shock. 4 gates appeared in the sky at the same time. This was simply too mysterious. Xiao moved her red lips and said, "That's right. The gate with the ancient divine dragon circling around it is the Eastern Divine Realm. It's also the place we're going to. Send your telekinesis into the Eastern Divine Gate and there will naturally be divine power guiding you to ascend into the realm of the gods." "Okay." Lin Muyu responded and sent her telekinesis into the Eastern Divine Gate. As expected, the golden light of the Heavenly Gate became even more dazzling. Beams of divine power transformed into ancient golden characters that descended from the sky and circled around Lin Muyu. They guided his body to ascend straight towards the Heavenly Gate. At the same time, Sanskrit chants sounded in his ears, as if an ancient prophecy was repeatedly echoing. A comfortable feeling surged into his body. Lin Muyu didn't forget to take a look and saw that Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were flying towards the Eastern Divine Gate at the same time. As for Shi Yan, she was holding onto the Qi Wei sword and slowly releasing her divine power. She quickly followed. As for Ziyao, her escort, she floated over. She was really too familiar with this path of ascension. Looking up, the heavenly gate was completely open. Huge golden seals appeared on both sides of the gate. Each seal represented the name of a god. Countless seals extended into the distance. Exalted God, your name. An ancient voice sounded. Lin Muyu replied without thinking, Lin Muyu. With a schwa sound, a small amount of divine power in his body turned into a ray of light and shot into the distance. In the distance, there was a stone pillar that soared into the sky. It was the divine stone of the Eastern Heaven realm. At this moment, the name of Lin Muyu in the divine book slowly appeared on the divine stone. It was a name that was used to compile books. The 3 words Lin Muyu were clear and powerful, making people secretly exclaim in admiration. Just as the name appeared on the divine stone, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth transformed into beams of light that shot straight into Lin Muyu's body. He immediately let out a whimper. What powerful energy from the divine world! No wonder everyone in the world wanted to ascend. This is the blessing of East Heaven. Every ascended god who enters the divine world will receive a portion of the blessing that belongs to them. Enjoy this blessing. Ziyao chuckled. Not only Lin Muyu, but even Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi also closed their eyes and enjoyed the blessings of the divine power of heaven and earth. The tide of God in her body kept surging. In less than 30 minutes, the strength of the divine power in Lin Muyu's body had increased by at least 10%. The tide of God surged continuously and broke through 2 hidden entrances, reaching the 55th grotto heaven level. Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin, on the other hand, had advanced to the 47th and 57th grotto heaven level respectively. On the other hand, under the impact of the divine power, Xian spread out the 6 wings of the blazing angel behind her back. Her cultivation suddenly entered the 36th divine king realm. However, this kind of power disappeared like a flash in the pan. Under the restriction of the divine pact, all her cultivation quickly flowed away and the divine power in her body returned to 0. She still looked like a mortal. She seemed to have expected this and smiled helplessly. As expected, it's still the same. The 4 of them stepped on the void and surrounded the Eastern Heaven realm divine stone. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi looked around in surprise. The divine world's spiritual mountains surrounding the Eastern Heaven realm divine stone were like celestial mountains connected by iron chains in the sky. Auspicious clouds covered the sky and from time to time, immortals flew and shuttled back and forth, chasing after the stars and the moon. It was very comfortable. Ziyao said, Shi Yan, this is the border of the East Heaven and still belongs to the 3 realms. Therefore, you can't gather your divine power. However, after entering the ancient desolate god realm, it will be different. After you enter the ancient desolate god realm, every drop of your cultivation will be preserved and will not be taken by the divine pact. At this moment, white clouds appeared behind them and figures appeared in the clouds. Banners fluttered in the wind and they looked very dignified. Ziyao couldn't help but smile. The Demon Emperor is here to welcome us. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin smiled at the same time and turned around. Surrounded by the crowd, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor descended from the sky on a violent flame cloud. He opened his arms and laughed. You brat, you are finally willing to ascend. I have been waiting for you for a long time. Behind him, thousands of gods from the Eastern Heaven realm knelt in the air. Greetings, Demon Emperor. Inspiring, too domineering. Lin Muyu squinted while staring at the fiery cloud under the 7 brilliance demon monarch's feet and said, How much fire god force does it take to form this fiery cloud? It's obvious that you're flying with your own strength instead of relying on the fiery cloud. Brother Demon Monarch, it has been so many years, yet you're still so focused on your appearance. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor's face darkened. Brat, Lin Ruoji, you want to quarrel with me the moment we meet? Do you want to fight? Come on. Lin Muyu pulled out the Xianyuan sword and a light flashed into the blade. With a buzz, starlight burst into the sky and shot towards the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor seemed to have expected this. He swung the Pangu axe horizontally and waved the one bright life flurry. Bang! Heaven and earth lost color. After the 2 divine weapons collided, they collapsed backwards. Lin Muyu took the opportunity to return the Xianyuan sword to its sheath. The gods were shocked. What kind of tradition was it to fight as soon as they met? Wasn't it said that the person who ascended this time was the brother of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor? Why did they fight as soon as they met? However, in the next moment, Lin Muyu and the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor had already clenched their fists and laughed. How are you in the mortal realm? I'm not dead. Big brother, how are you in the heaven realm? Look at my ostentatious appearance. How is it? There are more than 20,000 clergymen in East Heaven. Among them, there are more than 3,000 young goddesses. Most of them are in the southern border. When are we going to, cough cough? Qin Yin coughed. Tang Xiaoxi also looked angry. Lin Muyu looked up at him. Do you want me to die? The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor smiled awkwardly. I didn't expect you to bring your own. Then we'll talk about it later. Anyway, there's still a long way to go. Since you have ascended to become a member of my East Heaven realm, what kind of position do you want? You also have 2 sisters-in-law. Just tell me what kind of position you want. Oh, by the way, my old friend, Lord Blazing Angel Shiyan, you can also ask for a position. The corner of Shiyan's mouth rose. I don't want to be a blazing angel. Why would I be greedy for a position in the divine realm? However, Lin Muyu didn't refuse. He knew that power and position might not be very important, but having power and position meant that no one would dare to bully you. So he asked, what position is more important? The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was speechless. Sun Feng, take the Eastern Divine Realms roster and see what the highest position is. A golden scroll appeared in Sun Feng's hand. With a swoosh, countless names turned into golden light and flew up. He carefully looked at it and said, Your Majesty, Demon Emperor. Ever since Your Majesty removed the position of Left Marshal Lu Huan because of the Battle of Qingba, it has been vacant. Left Marshal Lu Huan is in charge of 8,000 gods, 3,000 planes, and 96,000 galaxies. This is currently the highest vacant position. Left Marshal Lu Huan. Lin Muyu narrowed his eyes. Is it powerful? Powerful. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor lowered his voice and said, do you know what it means to be in charge of 3,000 planes? This means that 3,000 worlds are your private fiefdom. Each world has hundreds of millions of people. Among these hundreds of millions of people, 50 million are women. Among them, there are about 10 million women aged 16 to 26. Among them, there are 1 in 10,000 beauties. And in the 3,000 planes, there are 3 million beauties who are 1 in 10,000. 3 million. Just imagine. Lin Muyu was a little stunned. Damn, just imagining it makes me so excited. That's right. Big brother didn't mistreat you, right, weak chicken? No, not bad, ha. At this time, Xiao and Qinin shouted in different directions. Demon Emperor! Big brother you! Instantly, the 2 men who were living in a dream woke up. Xiao said lightly, it's better to go to the ancient divine realm as soon as possible. Otherwise, these 2 people will have trouble staying together. Qin nodded approvingly. I agree. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor turned around and smiled. Sister-in-law Xiao Yin, listen to my explanation. Don't explain, it's too weak. Don't be angry. How can you and I be that kind of people? At the side, Sun Feng said respectfully, Demon Emperor, the carefully selected 50 young goddesses from the southern border have been sent to the main hall. Demon Emperor Xiao's eyes were burning. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor coughed and said, Men, send these goddesses back. It's just a misunderstanding. Where's the clerk? Remove Sun Feng from his position as the marshal and confiscate his seal. Sun Feng was at a loss. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were afraid that if they stayed in East Heaven for another day, Lin Muyu would be led astray. Therefore, they decided to leave the Heaven Realm the next day and go to the ancient wild secret realm to train. That night, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor held a banquet to entertain the newly promoted gods of East Heaven Realm. Lin Muyu had the sovereign personality, Qin Yin had the main god personality, Tang Xiaoxi was a demon god, and Xian was a blazing angel. None of them could be compared to ordinary gods. The arrival of the 4 of them was not only good friends who had not met for a long time, but also greatly enriched the power of East Heaven Realm. In addition to Lin Muyu being appointed as the marshal of the left army, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were also rewarded with hundreds of planes each. Shi Yan refused the reward, so it was fine. The next morning, she woke up early. This was Lin Muyu's first morning in the divine world. Stretching her arms, she walked out of the simple and unadorned palace. In the distance, the rising sun broke through the vault of heaven. Colorful lights and clouds rose into the sky. The beautiful scenery was breathtaking. The Heaven Realm was the Heaven Realm after all. Even the scenery was not comparable to the mortal world. Chapter 976. The East Emperor Palace was the most majestic building in the Eastern Heaven Realm. The entire East Emperor Palace stretched for more than 30 miles and was the residence of the Eastern God Kings. After the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor ruled the Eastern Heaven, the entire East Emperor Palace was almost in ruins. The War of the Gods turned the towering palaces into rubble. Only less than a quarter of the East Emperor Palace was preserved. However, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor did not live in it. Instead, he conferred it to Ziyao as a bedchamber. In the imperial garden behind the East Emperor Palace, the warm morning sun shone on the jungle. There were not many gods who came to send off Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and the others. There were only the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, Ziyao, Sun Feng, and a few other important figures in the Eastern Heaven Realm. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor, dressed in a light purple robe, said in a low voice, You must be careful when you go there. The world in the space crack is called the Wild Land of the Divine Realm by us. It is also called the Secret Land of the Divine Realm. For tens of thousands of years, it has been regarded as a forbidden area in the Divine Realm. There are great dangers lurking in the Secret Land of the Divine Realm. Even Ziyao has only explored less than 1/10 of the area. You must be extra careful. Will there be fatal threats? Lin Muyu asked. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor answered directly, Yes, one careless mistake and you may never come back. I originally planned to let Ziyao accompany you there, but Ziyao thinks that this will be an obstacle to your training. Real breakthroughs and improvements in strength are between life and death. How far you can cultivate in the secret land of the divine realm is entirely up to you. In addition, there's one more thing I want to tell you. Say it, big brother. There are many lost treasures in the secret land of the divine realm. Even divine weapons like the Shenyuan sword and Pangu axe were found in the secret land of the divine realm. The 4 of you may be able to find what you want in the secret land. In short, be careful. Qin Yin's eyes were faint as she said, Sister Ziyao has entered the secret land. Can you tell us something about it? Perhaps this will give us more confidence. Ziyao nodded. Even though I've only explored a small part of the wild god realm, I still have some understanding of it. First of all, you need to be wary of the forgotten ones in the secret realm. The Forsaken One. That's right. Ziyao nodded and said, that was a group of ancient gods. They were originally under the rule of God Emperor Fuxi. However, in a war many years ago, these ancient gods were left behind in the Arcana realm. They never found their way back, so they survived in the Arcana realm. Their names gradually disappeared from the divine book of the Eastern God realm and became a group of forgotten fierce gods. Be careful of them. For tens of thousands of years, they have survived by killing each other and stealing godheads. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Yes, I remember. What else? Beware of the night marauders. Raiders? Yes, they are a group of strange beasts similar to ancient demonic beasts. There are countless of them and they are very strong. They can break through the walls of the god realm. They only appear at night, some can fly while others can't. They are extremely fast and even gods can't see them with their naked eyes. In ancient times, they were called sky huts. Their bodies are black and their arms and mouths have sharp blades that can pierce through the walls of the god realm. You must be careful. Let me give you a piece of advice. In the god realm, don't come out at night. Find a cave to hide in. Sister Xiao, you've also encountered these sky huts? Tang Xiaoxi asked. Yes, I hid in a cave in a snowy region for a day and a night before I managed to escape. There were over 10,000 sky huts hunting me down. It was impossible to kill them all. Xiao smiled and said, once you enter the Arcana realm, don't think of yourself as a god. The creatures that can survive in the ancient Arcana realm are all stronger than gods. What's so good about the Arcana realm? Lin Muyu asked. Xiao smiled. The spirit energy density in the Arcana realm is 11 times that of the Heaven realm and 50 times that of the Broken Cauldron realm. Cultivating in the Arcana realm will yield twice the results with half the effort. Moreover, the gravity in the Arcana realm is 7 times that of the Broken Cauldron realm. In other words, you will have to endure 7 times the weight of your body. This will greatly increase your speed. As she spoke, Xiao continued, there is another special feature of the Arcana realm. Food is scarce. Most of the food you can find is spirit fruits and strange beasts. However, these two are treasures condensed from the essence of heaven and earth. After eating them, your cultivation will greatly increase. Also, be careful of windsaws when flying in the Arcana realm. Windsaws? Lin Muyu was stunned. Yes, it's a type of wind condensed from dimensional energy. You must avoid it if you encounter it. The power of the windsaws is extremely strong and can break through the walls of the god realm. Moreover, the windsaws are invisible and invisible. You can't rely on your eyes. You can only rely on your spirit sense to sense the fluctuations of the dimensional energy. Got it? Lin Muyu smiled and said, all right, is there anything else you want to say? If not, let's prepare to set off. We have to set off as soon as possible and return as soon as possible. Yes. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi nodded together. There were still a lot of things waiting to be done in the Broken Cauldron realm. If they could step into the God Emperor realm earlier and return, it would be time to take control of the overall situation. Xiao didn't say anything. She just spread her hands and condensed a huge northern heavenly wheel. The sparkling and translucent rulers slid continuously. If you're ready, I'll send you over. Xiao smiled faintly. Don't be anxious. Cultivate slowly. 10 years inside is equivalent to 1 year in the Broken Cauldron realm and the God realm. However, you must be careful. After entering the Arcana realm, you will appear in the sky. Remember, you must be careful of those invisible windsaws. I almost lost my life to them. Lin Muyu held Tang Xiaoxi's and Qin Yin's hands and stood in the open woodland filled with grass. Qin Yin held onto Xian's arm. The few of them were already prepared. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor said in a deep voice, You must cultivate carefully and come back alive. Swoosh, 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 4 beams of light soared into the sky and disappeared into the forest. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor couldn't help but turn around and stare at Xiao. You didn't even let me finish speaking before sending them off. How rude. The corner of Xiao's mouth rose slightly. I still can't completely control the power of the northern heavenly wheel. Also, were you yelling at me just now? No, I was just asking. Swoosh, swoosh, flowing light shuttles appeared on both sides. The 4 of them traveled through the flowing light tunnel as soon as their feet touched the ground. Under the impact of the powerful energy, everyone couldn't help but close their eyes and couldn't look at it anymore. Only Qin Yin could maintain her eyes of blazing light open, but it was also very difficult. After traveling for a full 10 minutes, it was obvious how far this secret territory was. Hua! Suddenly, the 4 of them appeared in the sky as if they had passed through a wall. The sky was already blue with white clouds. It was a peaceful scene, and the soles of their feet automatically generated energy to support their flight. Lin Muyu opened her eyes and looked down at the ground. This was a dense forest area. There were mountains in the distance, and it felt like they were facing a stone forest. However, the stone forest in front of them was hundreds of times larger. Stone pillars soared into the sky, as if they were the giants that supported the power between heaven and earth. Roars of wild beasts could be heard in the forest. From the sound, one could tell that they weren't kind. We have just arrived, so we can't stay in the air for too long. After we land, let's familiarize ourselves with the terrain first, Lin Muyu said softly. The three beauties nodded together. Unknowingly, Lin Muyu had already taken on the role of the team leader of this secret territory cultivation team. Moreover, the purpose of this trip was very clear, and that was to improve their cultivation. It would be best if they could reach the great perfection divine the Arch Realm. By then, they could return to the Shattered Cauldron Realm and dominate the world. Behind them, a huge black bird followed at a distance. When it spread its wings, it was about 5 meters long. Its pair of black eyes were filled with the greed and ruthlessness of a predator. Is it a rock? Tang Xiaoxi asked suspiciously, will it attack us? Probably not. Lin Muyu said, it is also testing our strength. Obviously, this rock's strength isn't enough to kill the 4 of us at once. Let's fly down first. Qin Yin hugged Shi Yan and supported her strength. The 4 of them slowly flew down. However, halfway through the flight, Lin Muyu's spiritual sense suddenly sensed a power fluctuation in the air, followed by an almost imperceptible dimensional explosion. He hurriedly said softly, be careful, it's a wind saw. Move with me. He suddenly raised his palm and pulled Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Shi Yan up by nearly 3 meters. With a swoosh, the wind saw swept past, and the image of a huge blood-red blade appeared. It was 100 meters long, just like a huge saw. It suddenly appeared and disappeared. No wonder it was called wind saw. The rock behind him let out a loud squawk. It flapped its wings and spun rapidly in the air, barely dodging the giant wind saw's natural attack. This rock had lived for at least 10,000 years. As a survivor of the arcane realm, its defense against the wind saw was probably far above that of Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and the others. Tang Xiaoxi looked back and was secretly shocked. As expected, they are not simple. Careful, there is another one. Lin Muyu used her falling star step again and brought the 3 girls along with her for almost 10 meters. Their original position in the air had been completely separated by a windsaw. Shi Yan couldn't help but smile. This place is interesting. She doesn't have any cultivation, but she is so calm in the face of danger. This is probably the power of the mind. Lin Muyu quickly brought everyone to the ground. It was extremely dangerous in the air. If it wasn't for the fact that she had cultivated the spiritual pulse technique and was extremely sensitive to energy fluctuations, it would have been very difficult for her to dodge the 2 consecutive windsaws. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Only after his feet touched the ground did he feel a sense of security. The forest was filled with trees that he couldn't name. Some of the trees were grotesquely shaped and comical. Not far away, there was a tree that was only half a meter tall. Its shape was rather inelegant. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi also noticed it. Xiaoyin, look at that tree, it looks like... Tang Xiaoxi suddenly stopped. Qin Yin giggled, but she was too embarrassed to say anything. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, took a careful look and said, it looks like a butt, right? Yeah, Lin Muyu walked up and looked at it. She said, what's even stranger is that there is a small red fruit in the center of the butt. It looks like a small strawberry. What is this? Sister Xian, you are very knowledgeable. Come take a look. Shi Yan walked up and carefully observed the fruit growing from the butt tree. Her eyes suddenly lit up. How is this a strawberry? This is a very rare spirit fruit. Chapter 977. Spirit Fruit. Lin Muyu smiled. The fruit from this butt tree is definitely not delicious. Is that so? Shi Yan was speechless. Then what if I told you that this isn't a butt tree, but a peacefulness tree, and this spirit fruit is called a peacefulness berry? Eating one can increase your spirit energy for a month. Would you still think this fruit is not delicious? A month. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. Qin Yin giggled. That's great, that's great. In other words, eating this fruit will speed up your cultivation, right, Sister Hyan? That's about right, but you can't eat too much. You can only eat one a day at most. Otherwise, it's useless. Lin Muyu was excited. She counted and said, there are about 20 peacefulness berries on this peacefulness tree. It's enough for the 4 of us to eat for a week. I'll pick it. Shi Yen hurriedly called out and said, Idiot you, this kind of peacefulness berry can't be picked normally. Once the fruit is separated from the branches and leaves, it will lose all its spirit energy in a few seconds. The way to pick this spirit fruit is to cut off the bark together. When you need to eat it, you just need to bite off one and eat it. So particular, Lin Muyu carefully pulled out a little demonic noise knife from her waist and peeled off the bark along with a peacefulness berry. Then, she handed it to Qin Yin. Here, Xiao Yin, eat one first. Qin Yin was a little uneasy. Should I eat first? Shi Yen and Tang Xiaoxi both smiled. Eat. Shi Yen added, each of us will take one, and at this time tomorrow, we will take another one. In this way, we can maintain our physical strength and divine power. Qin Yin gently bit a peacefulness berry and couldn't help but frown. She smiled. It's so sour. When Shi Yen and Tang Xiaoxi each ate one, Lin Muyu also leaned close to the bark and chewed one. Sure enough, it was very sour, but the moment it entered her throat, there was a refreshing taste. When it fell into her stomach, the spiritual power in the peacefulness berry began to volatilize, and spiritual power gushed into her meridians like a spring. It was really a good treasure. This kind of peacefulness berry could increase one's cultivation and also increase the recovery speed of the consumer's divine power. It was even better than what Shi Yen said. Lin Muyu carefully hid the rest of the Ningxin in her Qiankuan pouch, then pulled out her Xianyuan sword and started digging around the but tree. What are you doing? Shi Yen was shocked. Lin Muyu said, I'm digging it up and transplanting it. This peacefulness berry is so good. If we dig it up and bring it back to Shattered Cauldron Realm or God Realm, we can mass-produce it after planting it. How great would that be? Black lines appeared on Shi Yan's forehead. Ayu, you should change your upstart mindset. Let me tell you bluntly, the peacefulness berry needs to bloom and bear fruit in a place with very strong spiritual power. Moreover, it only blooms once in 100 years and bears fruit in another 100 years. After we pick the fruit this time, it will take 200 years before it bears fruit again. Can you wait 200 years? I don't think so. Lin Muyu gave up on the idea of transplanting it and said, let's search a bit more, maybe there are other spirit fruits. Shi Yen burst into laughter. You're thinking too much. We're lucky to have encountered this peacefulness berry. Although there are spirit fruits in the secret realm, they're not planted. They're crystallized from the spirit energy of heaven and earth. Moreover, most of the spirit fruits have already been eaten by wild beasts or cultivators here. We wouldn't be that lucky. Lin Muyu had already walked dozens of steps forward. She pointed at a big tree in front of them and said, Sister Xin, look, is that thing that looks like a banana a spirit fruit? Shi Yen was stunned. Her beautiful eyes were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? This is a devil palm banana. Lin Muyu chuckled. I've only heard of the devil palm banana. I've never heard of the devil palm banana. Shi Yen said, the devil palm banana is a kind of natural spirit fruit of the law of fire. After eating it, it can greatly increase the consumer's control and endurance of the law of fire. Even if a mortal eats it, it can also greatly increase their resistance and endurance of the law of fire. Therefore, in the mortal realm, there are some mortals in some planes who eat the devil palm banana by mistake. They're not natural espers, but they've received the benefits of the devil palm banana. As long as they cultivate well, even eating a devil palm banana can be considered a pretty good cultivator of the law of fire. It's that powerful? Lin Muyu was stunned. Shi Yen nodded. I remember there's a plane under the control of the Western Divine Realm. There, the price of a devil palm banana has already been raised to 300 trucks. Only 300? That's not much. Lin Muyu said. Shi Yan was speechless. In that plain, 1 trox can buy a 3-story courtyard, plus 10 maids and 3 big-tailed dogs. What do you think? Lin Muyu's heart surged. So we're rich? Rich your head. Qin Yin couldn't help but laugh. These devil palm bananas are all for Xiaoxi. Maybe they can help Xiaoxi evolve her divine spark into the overgod spark. Compared to the wealth of the mortal world, Xiaoxi's overgod spark is more important. Shi Yan raised the corner of her mouth and said, if she really refines the overgod spark, then she can be considered as a ruler. Don't tell me, you've never thought of unifying the heaven realm? This heaven realm is divided into 4 major star fields. There are years of war and chaos, and it's long been exhausted. If we can unify it and there are no wars, that would be great. Lin Muyu pondered for a moment and asked, Sister Xian thinks we have the ability to unify the heaven realm. Why not? Shi Yan giggled and said, don't forget, your divine spark is the same as the 7 luminaries' demon emperor. It is also a sovereign spark. Moreover, you are still advancing so quickly with the sovereign spark. This means that your talent is above that of the demon emperor. As long as you are willing, your future achievements will definitely be above that of the demon emperor. If the demon emperor can unify the East Heaven, then you can unify the entire heaven realm and become a true king of gods. Lin Muyu smiled brightly and suddenly held Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's hands, saying, I don't want to be some king of gods. I want to bring my 2 beautiful wives home and show them to my father. Then I will spend a lot of money to open a world-class bar and bring Xiao Yin and Xiaoxi to drink every day for fun. Then, the company will hire a dozen god emperors as bodyguards. If anyone dares to cause trouble for me, Xiao Yin, and Xiaoxi, I will let these god emperors beat them up until they can't take care of themselves. Is this what you want? Shi Yan looked at him with her mouth wide open. On the other hand, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were so happy they could die. Actually, what women wanted was very simple. As long as the person they loved was by their side and they were in their heart, that was enough. Shi Yan squinted her beautiful eyes. It would be great if that was the case. Can you guarantee that when you meet a more beautiful woman in the future, you will always be loyal to Xin and Xiaoxi? Lin Muyu shook her head. No, I don't believe that there is anyone more righteous than Xiao Yin and Xiaoxi in this world. What if there is? Then I will capture them and present them to Big Brother Feng Jixing. As a sister-in-law, she won't have any other thoughts. Yo! Shi Yan walked over with a smile, her tall and slender body sticking to Lin Muyu's shoulder. She looked at him deeply and said, Isn't there a saying in your hometown, nothing is better than dumplings, nothing is better than playing with dumplings? Lin Muyu's face turned pale. You know too much. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi asked, What's more fun? Lin Muyu didn't know how to answer, so she turned around to pick the devil's palm banana. After peeling one, she handed it to Tang Xiaoxi's mouth. Xiaoxi, come eat the banana. Tang Xiaoxi didn't know what to do, so she opened her mouth blankly and took a bite. Lin Muyu's face turned red. Qin Yin looked at him speechlessly. She had no idea what he was thinking. About 50 meters ahead, there was another tree in front of them, and this time, there were more than 40 fruits. This was really a little shocking. Happiness came too suddenly. After Lin Muyu cut the spiritual fruit, Shi Yan raised her hand and said, Let's get out of here quickly. Why, there are so many spiritual fruits. You idiot, so many spiritual fruits live so densely together, but there isn't even a beast that eats them. What does this mean? Have you forgotten the 2 consecutive wind saws we took in the air? This means that we are in the plantation of some powerhouse, these spiritual fruits are grown by him, and the 2 wind saws are obstacles he set up in the sky with some method. Shi Yan suddenly became nervous and said, to be able to grow so many spiritual fruits in the primordial mystic realm, he must have eaten spiritual fruits for tens of thousands of years. His cultivation must be at least 90 grotto heaven great perfection immortal state. Let's go. If we're discovered, we'll definitely die. So we've become thieves? Lin Muyu put away the spiritual fruits and said, Then let's go. With that, She held Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's hands and hurried away. If Shi Yan's cultivation was still there, then it wouldn't be a problem. She could eat all their fruits, burn down their spiritual orchard, and do all sorts of evil things. But Shi Yan didn't have any cultivation, so they could only rely on Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi to fight. Any 90 Grotto Heaven God Emperor would be hard to deal with, so it was better to escape. However, after the four of them ran for nearly 10 li, Shi Yan was still frowning and said anxiously, "I keep feeling like something is following us." "That's right, something is following us." Lin Muyu pointed in the direction of the spiritual orchard and said, "Look, that thing is following us." Sure enough, a grayish-red figure came out of the forest. It was a hungry wolf, but it wasn't an ordinary wolf. It was a wolf with the power of the god state. Its head was densely covered with golden lines, and there were at least 30 of them. Lin Muyu's scalp went numb. "This is bad. This is a beast that has lived for at least 30,000 years. Even the saliva that flows from its mouth is the saliva of the gods." Qinin squinted her eyes and smiled. "Big brother you, that's enough. Be serious, we don't know how to deal with this wolf." Shi Yan said, "This wolf should be a pet of the owner of the spiritual orchard. It's not a good one. We can't hide from it, the only way is to kill it. A 30,000-year-old spiritual beast's meat must be delicious. We just happen to have no food, and it's getting dark." Lin Muyu slowly unsheathed the Xianyuan sword and said, "Leave it to me." Shi Yan shook her head. "Actually, with your strength and the divine weapon, you are already the strongest among the four of us. Let Xin take care of this wolf, and you can't use the flaming eyes. Kill it with the 7 slashes." Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. "Let Xiao Yin do it alone?" Shi Yan smiled and nodded. "Did you forget the purpose of our trip? If Xin can't take care of a beast by himself, how can he improve in the future?" "Yes, I'll go." Qin Yin smiled and unsheathed the star's sword. Chapter 978. The secret realm was full of divine beasts. Although this wolf looked ferocious and ugly, it belonged to the ranks of divine beasts. In terms of strength, ordinary ultimate gods and divine kings might not be its match at all. Since it was the pet of the owner of the spiritual orchard, most of its food must be treasures such as spiritual fruits. At that moment, the holy wolf's body was enshrouded in flames as it slowly walked over. It had already discovered that the few people standing on the hill were the thieves who stole the spiritual fruits. Roar! It raised its head and roared. The grassland around the holy wolf was quickly swept by a shockwave as a flame divine power rippled out. Sure enough, the power of a divine beast was extraordinary. "Perhaps it would be better for Xiao Yin to use the eyes of blazing light," said Lin Muyu. Shi Yan shook her head. "No. Using the eyes of blazing light to deal with such an opponent would make the eyes of blazing light too cheap. Shingo, if you can't beat it, you and Xiao Shi will save you." Qin Yin floated down with a long sword in her hand and confronted the holy wolf 10 meters away. Her flowing cloud dress fluttered in the wind. She was indescribably beautiful. She kept her eyes closed as she used her spiritual sense to capture the holy wolf's position and attack angle. Clap! The holy wolf's front paws slowly scratched the ground as a pair of red eyes stared at the delicious meal in front of it. Suddenly, it launched an attack as its figure attacked like lightning. On the hill, Shi Yan said, "Dripping stone, grasping wind and catching shadow, lower your center of gravity, split, stab." Qin Yin's body suddenly took a few steps back as her long sword turned into a series of light shadows and instantly split apart. She was almost kneeling on the ground while maintaining her center of gravity. At the same time, her long sword stabbed out. Suddenly, the sky was filled with phantom-like blades of the stellar sword. Roar! The holy wolf waved its claws in the air as it crazily scratched and bit. Each claw turned into divine power and bombarded the splitting sword. In the blink of an eye, the holy wolf smashed countless sword shadows. Its sharp claws raised high and fell on Qin Yin's fragrant shoulder. Such powerful divine power. Lin Muyu sighed inwardly. Tang Xiaoxi's eyes widened. "Careful, Xiao Yin," Shi Yan whispered. Disperse the light, dodge. Light splitting was one of the battle techniques of the law of light in the Western divine realm. Every participant in the Chosen of God trial had trained in it. Qin Yin's figure seemed to be standing in the same place, but in the next moment, a figure separated and appeared several meters away. The holy wolf's sharp claws only killed a temporary illusion that Qin Yin left in the same place. In the air, gather power, judge. Shi Yan continued. Almost as soon as she finished speaking, Qin Yin's delicate body had already risen from the ground. Her long sword was high up in the air, radiating a dazzling radiance. The sword light expanded by dozens of meters, and it slashed heavily at the back of the holy wolf, who had missed its target. Awoo! The holy wolf seemed to be aware of the approaching crisis. It roared, and all the hair on its back stood up, like steel needles forming a shield-like defense. With a clang, it collided with the power of judgment. Suddenly, Qin Yin's arm felt a vast rebound force, and she was involuntarily sent flying. The holy wolf also whimpered and took several steps back. A stream of blood flowed down from its back, but to a wild beast, this kind of injury could stimulate its bloodthirsty nature even more. Its sharp claws scratched the ground, causing the ground to tremble and show signs of splitting apart. Cracks appeared on the grass, and not only that, flames rose into the sky along with its movements. It's going to get serious, Lin Muyu said. Qin Yin frowned slightly. Sister Hyan, I won't hide it from you. The third strike of the 7 slashes is too destructive, and I haven't fully mastered it. Once I use it, not only will my opponent die, but I will also suffer from the power backlash. Just give it a try. But Qin Yin gripped the long sword with both hands as her body trembled slightly. She quickly poured her energy into the blade, and the pure light divine energy from her overgod's spark caused the star's sword to hum. The light saint energy continued to gather, and in the end, it formed a scorching white flame around the blade. This was the purest form of light energy, white flame. The holy wolf rushed forward, waved its claws, and attacked Qin Yin with a shocking momentum. The moment Qin Yin raised her hand, the white flame had already swept out, turning the surrounding grass into ashes. The biting cold sword light slashed down on the wolf's head. Bang! The saint wolf howled miserably. Part of its skull seemed to have been shattered, and its flesh and blood splattered everywhere. However, it still waved its sharp claws and scratched at Qin Yin's shoulders and chest, leaving traces of flames. Very soon, cracks appeared on Qin Yin's divine wall. The flames swept in, and the delicate skin on her shoulders was evaporated, revealing her alluring snow-white shoulders, as well as many frightening traces. The power of destruction was too strong, and it continued to sweep out, almost disintegrating the holy wolf's body. At the same time, the white flame began to withdraw, which would also cause a strong backlash to Qin Yin's body. The fourth strike, pity! Shi Yan shouted. But I haven't mastered the fourth strike. Qin Yin was shocked. I told you to use it, so use it, don't hesitate. Qin Yin immediately shouted, gathering all the strength in her body, and retracted the blade. Suddenly, a gentle force surged around, and Qin Yin stood there proudly, like a war goddess at the end of the world. A magical scene happened. The surrounding grassland that was originally burned to ashes quickly sprouted green, and even the injury on Qin Yin's shoulder began to recover. What was even more exaggerated was that the holy wolf's body that had been disintegrated also recovered by half. Although it couldn't be resurrected, it seemed as if time had been reversed. At this moment, the domain filled the entire space, and no one could attack Qin Yin at all, as if they were controlled by some kind of law. The fourth strike of Xian's 7 chops was not the main attack, but a defensive move. I did it? Qin Yin opened her flaming eyes, and looked back at the 3 people on the hill in surprise. Shi Yan smiled in satisfaction and nodded. I think, during the Chosen One trial, Li Fei already taught you that the true power of light is a kind of destruction, and mortals can't peek at it. But she definitely didn't teach you that light is also a kind of rebirth, a kind of power that can resist all things. The third strike of Xian's 7 chops, destruction, and the fourth strike, pity, were originally the same move, but I separated them. The fourth strike is the end of the third strike, and is also a perfect defensive method for self-protection. As she said this, Xian said softly, "In the Gods' War 3 months ago, I relied on this move to avoid the fatal attack of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. If it wasn't for pity, I'm afraid I would have been turned into ashes by now." Qin Yin smiled lightly. "Thank you, Sister Haiyan, for your teachings. I finally mastered the third and fourth strikes perfectly." Is this the purpose of our trip? Then, Lin Muyu stared at the Saint Wolf's corpse. "Then tonight's dinner has appeared. Wolf meat, how about it?" Since he had already killed it, eating the Saint Wolf shouldn't be a problem. Furthermore, he hadn't seen a single wild rabbit, deer, or wild boar after running for 5 kilometers. It looked like it was just as Ziyao had said. Food was the most difficult problem to solve in the primordial dungeon. It was rare that he had been lucky enough to kill the Saint Wolf. He couldn't let it go to waste. Lin Muyu jumped down the hill and grabbed the Saint Wolf's corpse. First, she pulled out a small magic noise blade and dug out a spirit stone. Sure enough, just like the one in the Shattered Cauldron realm, this Saint Wolf had nurtured a spirit stone that was over 32,000 years old. It was a good thing, and after refining it, it could increase one's cultivation by quite a bit. Xian looked into the distance. "Let's go, we can't wait for the owner of the spirit orchard to find us, that'll be troublesome. Can any of you tell the direction?" "I can." Lin Muyu touched the communication device Lulu gave her and called out from afar. "Lulu, are you still there?" A barely audible voice came into her ear. "I'm here, big brother. Why did you run to such a remote space? Your signal? I can barely catch it." Then don't say too much, help me confirm the direction. Straight ahead of you is north." "Okay, thank you, Lulu." Lin Muyu pointed ahead, north. Xian said happily, "That's for the best." Ziyao also said that this is the north of the God realm, so let's continue north and try to avoid the owner of the spirit orchard. In the dense forest, the 4 of them ran as if they were flying, but just as Xian said, they didn't encounter any trees with spirit fruits along the way, but they did see a fierce tiger and a python along the way. They were strong, but they didn't provoke them in order to hurry. By dusk, they had already run for nearly 100 miles, and the sky was about to turn dark. Lin Muyu was more concerned about letting Xian circulate her mental cultivation method in such an environment with such abundant spirit energy. Rushing all the way wasn't effective, and the gravity in the secret realm was 7 times that of Shattered Cauldron realm. Running for 50 miles was almost Xian's limit. Lin Muyu glanced over, and sure enough, Xian's forehead was covered in sweat. A great blazing angel couldn't even withstand such intense running. In order to destroy the divine agreement, Xian had paid too much. "Find a place to stay at night?" Lin Muyu said. Qin Yin was the first to agree, and she also noticed that Xian's breathing was getting heavier. In the dense forest, a triangular cave entrance was faintly discernible. When Lin Muyu used her long sword to cut the thorns, the entire shape of the cave appeared. This location was not bad, and there were towering trees around it. Even if they started a fire here, it wouldn't be easy to be discovered. The mountain is high, and we can look down from above. The cave is low, and it's not easy to find. Even if we are seen, we can escape at any time, and we don't have to be afraid of being surrounded. The terrain is easy to defend and hard to attack, Lin Muyu said confidently. Qin Yin couldn't help but smile. "Big brother, we're not in a war now, so you can put that away." I can't help it, it's an occupational hazard. You guys clean up the cave, I'll go find a water source." Chapter 979. The nearest water source to the cave was not far away. There was a gurgling stream a mile away. Night had officially fallen. Only the flapping of the wings of birds returning to their nests and the hissing of some small poisonous snakes crawling among the branches and leaves in search of food could be heard. Lin Muyu did not fly. He carried the body of the holy wolf on his shoulder and walked step by step under the giant trees in the jungle with the Xianyuan sword in one hand. Rustle, The sound of the leaves rustling in the branches in the distance also attracted his attention. As a professional soldier who had fought in wars for more than 10 years, Lin Muyu's vigilance was not comparable to that of ordinary practitioners. He suddenly stopped and stood in the jungle like a silent statue. He did not continue until the spiritual pulse technique confirmed that there was no unusual movement. When he came to the stream, he couldn't help but be slightly stunned. It was a very big stream, at least 2 meters deep, and the water was so clear that he could see the bottom. There were no animals drinking on either side, causing the lush forest to be filled with a deathly stillness. He squatted down and skinned the holy wolf's corpse. He didn't waste a single bit and kept all of the meat because he didn't know what to eat next after eating this. After sorting out the entire wolf's meat, he began to fetch water. The water bag he used to fetch water was a reserve water bag made from the skin of a giant beast. It was bulging and filled to the brim, equivalent to at least 3 large buckets of water. When Lin Muyu put down the water bag complacently and was about to clean up the wolf's meat, suddenly there was a strange ripple in the water. He slowly put down the wolf's meat and raised his hand to pull out the Xianyuan sword. He looked at the water like a torch. There was indeed something strange just now. The ripple did not seem to be caused by something on the water surface, and there were no fish in the stream at all. The ripple just now came from the bottom of the water. The ripple formed by the stream hitting the pebbles at the bottom of the water was very regular, completely different from the ripple just now. Taking a deep breath, Lin Muyu raised the Xianyuan sword with one hand and suddenly opened his left hand. He shouted in a low voice, "All phenomena of heaven and earth, listen to my command. Rise." Splash. Under the control of the invisible elephant spell, the stream rose rapidly, and a voice came from the water, "You're courting death." Sure enough, there was someone in the seemingly transparent stream. No, it should be a god. Whoosh! A transparent figure dashed out of the stream with a curtain of water droplets. It was a completely transparent person hidden in the water. He raised his palm and condensed a dazzling ice crystal blade. He slashed at Lin Muyu's neck at an astonishing speed. His moves were ruthless and ruthless, completely aiming to take his opponent's life. Lin Muyu instantly understood that the person in front of her did not come with good intentions. Her body quickly leaned back, and in an instant, she completed a beautiful iron bridge. Under the condition of avoiding the opponent's attack, her combat boots, which were imbued with supreme divine power, violently kicked upwards. With a purring sound, countless splashes were scattered, but at the same time, this invisible killer was kicked out of the range of the water. Shoo shoo shoo. The opponent slid a few meters away along the grass and rocks. With a shake of his arm, the heat evaporated, and in the blink of an eye, the water on his body evaporated. After the water evaporated, he became transparent again and could no longer be captured by Lin Muyu's naked eyes. Moreover, his control of aura was exquisite. Even if Lin Muyu could capture his aura, she would not be able to launch an attack based on the location of the aura. After all, with just the aura but not the image of the opponent, it was impossible to predict the attack and the angle of the attack. In for a penny, in for a pound. Lin Muyu quickly took a few steps back, raised her palm and shouted, "The invisible elephant, borrow the momentum." Boom. The forest within dozens of meters was instantly crushed into powder, but it seemed like the opponent had dodged this attack. Lin Muyu took a deep breath. When she kicked the opponent's ankle just now, she could feel the continuous waves of divine power. This person had more than 70 waves of divine power, which meant that he was a rather powerful emperor god. Moreover, he could hide his body, which made it even more difficult to deal with. Making a prompt decision, Lin Muyu raised her arms and shouted, "Catasaurus, turn into armor." The Acatasaurus in the alternate dimension appeared quickly and turned into pieces of blood-red lotus armor that attached to the owner's body, forming a very close-fitting armor. Moreover, it was connected to the owner's bloodline and had great defensive power. Buzz! A hurricane came from behind her, and Lin Muyu quickly turned around and raised the dragon blood shield. After a pause sound, the dragon blood shield only trembled slightly. Not good. Lin Muyu cursed in her heart. She had been tricked. At this moment, a cold wind came from the left. It was a palm condensed with icicles, and it blasted towards Lin Muyu's left shoulder like a sharp sword. Pang! A muffled sound rang out. This hit landed squarely on the divine wall. The light from the divine wall splattered all over the ground. Another hit would probably shatter Lin Muyu's divine wall. The situation was very unfavorable, and Lin Muyu felt a chill in her heart. Although this person only had 70 grotto heavens, the ancient experts in the prehistoric mystic realm were indeed very strong. This 70th grotto heaven was not any weaker than Bailey Qin's 87th grotto heaven emperor god, and might even be stronger. The sharp ice law divine power was bone-chilling, and it had already caused Lin Muyu's left arm to feel a little numb. After the attack, the opponent disappeared again, and all Lin Muyu could do was to control the invisible elephant art. Suddenly, her battle boots landed on the ground, and the flames turned into a shockwave that spread to the surroundings. Shwa! Within the flames, a figure appeared, and it was him. Without a word, Lin Muyu raised the Xianyuan sword and locked onto the opponent with her domain. The invisible elephant art borrowed the momentum of the mountains to descend from the sky, and the 5 elements 8 wastelands annihilation landed on the opponent's head. Hong! The raging flames expanded, and Lin Muyu's attack caught the opponent off guard. In addition to the Xianyuan sword's overwhelming righteousness and sharpness, it directly sliced through the opponent's god wall. With a poochie sound, the blade slashed across his chest, and a wound was formed. Fresh blood splattered, and the opponent was already heavily injured. He could only blame himself for underestimating his opponent, and he didn't expect Lin Muyu's weapon to be so powerful. Since he was bleeding, he wouldn't be able to hide anymore, and the blood would betray his tracks. His figure slowly appeared, and a hideous face appeared. He looked at the sword in Lin Muyu's hand in shock, and said, "Where did your weapon come from?" Lin Muyu didn't say anything, and she waved her sword horizontally. 6-element heavenly tribulation. Chatting during a battle wasn't a good habit, and chatting after crippling the enemy was the quality of a true expert. But this 70th level grotto heaven powerhouse clearly wasn't that easy to cripple. Ice and snow fluttered in the air, and an expert with the law of ice was always very difficult to deal with. Fortunately, the law of fire was one of the laws that Lin Muyu mainly cultivated, and the intensity of the flames was comparable to the divine power of the overgod of fire, and it was enough to deal with this level of law of ice. Thus, in a short period of 3 minutes, the two sides exchanged dozens of attacks, and in the end, the injured powerhouse finally couldn't resist Lin Muyu's crazy attacks and was defeated, and he fell into a broken patch of thorns, and his breath was more out than in. Xia, Qin Yin, Shi Yan, and Tang Xiaoxi also appeared at the edge of the stream, but they didn't participate in the battle. They all knew that this was Lin Muyu's battle, and also his cultivation. "Who are you?" Lin Muyu carried the Xianyuan sword, walked forward, and asked with a cold face, "Why do you want to kill me?" The ugly man's face was pale, and he said, "You stole the spirit fruit from the holy orchard, and killed the domain lord's holy wolf. As the domain lord's friend, I naturally want to kill you, but you stole someone else's spirit fruit, and killed the holy wolf guardian. You deserve to die." "Domain lord? Who is he? Is someone like you worthy to ask the domain lord's name?" As he spoke, the ugly man suddenly raised his arm, and his entire arm was quickly covered in icicles, and it shot towards Lin Muyu's chest with lightning speed. Lin Muyu's movements were very light, and with a raise of his hand, the sword flew out, and the man's head flew off. A piece of divine spark with ice lingering around it slowly condensed above the head. "It seems like we've gotten into big trouble," he said unhurriedly. "Domain Lord, I wonder who he is." Shi Yan frowned and said, "But we've indeed gotten into big trouble. What do you think of this person's strength?" "Very strong." Lin Muyu looked at the opponent's corpse and said, "If I hadn't underestimated the sharpness of the Xianyuan sword and had my divine wall broken, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to determine the victor within 100 moves. What do we do now? Go back to the cave and eat and drink to your heart's content. Who wants this divine spark? You keep it, none of us cultivate the law of ice." Tang Xiaoxi smiled. Lin Muyu grabbed the divine spark and threw it into her Qianquan bag, then picked up the half-burnt wolf head and returned to the cave with the water bag. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi began to cultivate their own mental cultivation methods, and sat cross-legged in the cave without moving. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu began to refine the ugly man's divine spark, and transferred the divine power to Shi Yan. Shi Yan's body was empty, and needed this external divine power to refine and make it her own. This person's body is transparent. Lin Muyu recalled the previous battle. Shi Yan said, "It's the law of dark light, a branch of the law of light. Cultivators of the law of dark light can use the power of illusory light to make their bodies transparent. These people are very difficult to deal with, unless you can kill them in one strike." And I was almost injured. Lin Muyu looked up at Shi Yan, who was bathed in holy light, and said, "Sister Xian, why aren't you absorbing divine power anymore?" "I'm full." Shi Yan frowned slightly and said, "This is the limit of what I can refine today. You can absorb the rest yourself." Lin Muyu lowered her head to look at the frost godhood revolving in her palm. Although there were spirit fruits and abundant spirit energy in this ancient mystic realm, the level of danger was probably no less than that of the Shattered Cauldron world. It would not be easy to survive or even establish a foothold here. Chapter 980. Overnight, the spiritual energy in Lin Muyu's body showed no signs of drying up under the shapeless elephant spell. The spiritual energy turned into divine energy and grew endlessly. This was the powerful effect of the spiritual fruit. The peace heart berry was indeed a great treasure. Eating one could greatly increase the effects of one's cultivation. In addition to the abundant spiritual energy in the arcane realm, Lin Muyu felt that the energy in her body had increased significantly. It was at least equivalent to 10 to 15 days of cultivation in the Shattered Cauldron realm. On the side, Qin Yin, who was lying under the blanket, woke up with a moan. She had fallen asleep unknowingly during her cultivation. It was only because Lin Muyu had spread out the blanket in her cosmos sack that she could sleep so comfortably. Her clear, golden eyes were wide open. Qin Yin looked at Lin Muyu. She didn't say anything. Lin Muyu didn't say anything either. She just lovingly caressed Qin Yin's snow-white face with the back of her finger. Qin Yin, on the other hand, closed her eyes and pressed her face against Lin Muyu's palm like a beautiful kitten. "Is it morning?" Shi Yan opened her eyes and asked. Lin Muyu looked at the ray of sunlight that seeped into the cave and said, "It's morning. Sister Xian, how do you feel?" "I've recovered some of my energy, but it's not enough to turn into light divine energy." Shi Yan opened her palm and let out a soft cry. A ball of milky white fighting energy appeared in her palm. She had recovered to the heavenly realm in one night, and this energy hadn't dissipated. This proved that Ziyao and the 7 luminaries' demon emperor's deduction was correct. The results of Shi Yan's cultivation in the primordial arcane realm wouldn't be lost because of the curse of the divine pact. "That's great." Tang Xiaoxi sat up and smiled. "So much energy has been recovered in just one day. Within a year, Sister Haiyan will definitely recover to the 99th Grotto Heaven realm." "Hard to say." Shi Yan smiled faintly and said, "It's not as easy to reach the peak of 99 realms as you think. I'm well aware of the recovery speed of my strength. It's impossible for me to return to the peak within 3 years." Holding onto Lin Muyu's shoulder, Qin Yin sat up and asked, "What's the plan for today? Continue heading north or stay here?" "We can't stop." Lin Muyu shook her head. "The 4 of us don't have much rations. As gods, we are far less dependent on food than mortals. However, if we keep training at a high intensity, then we must eat our fill every meal. We burned a lot of the holy wolf meat yesterday, so it's only enough for us to eat for 2 days at most. We must continue north and look for new food. Moreover, the spirit fruit won't last long. Perhaps there will be better spirit fruits along the way. We can't be satisfied with this." And, after packing up their belongings, they cooked another pot of wolf meat. Once everyone was full, they set off on their journey to gain experience. As soon as they left the cave, the sky outside was filled with the cries of eagles. There were 2 almost black eagles crying in the sky, and from time to time, wind saws would fly across the sky. These wind saws came and went without a sound. It was too dangerous, and no one would be willing to take the risk in the sky. Lin Muyu confirmed the direction and walked in front with her sword in hand. Qin Yin protected Shi Yan in the middle, and Tang Xiaoxi brought up the rear with her god artifact, Gus Spear. The group of people wandered aimlessly through the lush forest. Having just arrived at the secret ground, Lin Muyu knew nothing about this place. In fact, she didn't even have a map of the secret ground. This was not her style at all. Running around like a headless housefly was the worst feeling ever. Thankfully, the forest of the secret ground wasn't too lonely. At noon, Lin Muyu found some fruits on a huge tree. The fruits were as big as a disc and were entirely emerald green. They looked no different from watermelons, except that they were even more crystalline and translucent. Another spirit fruit? Lin Muyu asked with a smile. Shi Yan nodded and smiled. Yes, a spirit-cultivated melon. It's a spirit fruit that grows on trees. However, its effects are far inferior to the peace heart berry and devil's palm banana. It's just a fruit that can quench thirst and nourish the body. After eating it, it can quench thirst and recover strength. As for other things, it's basically useless. But the weather is a little hot now. You, go pick one. We'll rest for a while and eat. Lin Muyu leaped up from the ground and easily plucked a spirit-cultivated melon. When she landed on the ground, she placed it on a rock. She raised a finger, and sharp wind elemental law divine energy shot out from her fingertip. Like a divine weapon, she sliced the melon a few times in succession, just like she was slicing a watermelon. The spirit-cultivated melon had already been split into 16 pieces. The flesh inside was purple and emitted a faint fragrance. Here showing. He handed a piece to Qin Yin. At the same time, he used his divine power to take a look. The spirit-cultivated melon was not poisonous and had a pure texture. Qin Yin took a bite and smiled sweetly. So sweet. Thus, the 4 of them surrounded the rock and finished the spirit-cultivated melon. Then, Lin Muyu took out the cooked meat from her universe bag and shared it with everyone as lunch. Although everyone's status was very high in their respective planes, this was an arcane realm. Everything had to be simple. The wolf meat was a little sour, and it didn't taste very good. Even after it was poured with cooking wine, it still wasn't delicious. But this couldn't be helped. After all, it was the meat of a holy beast. It had sufficient spiritual power, so eating it was beneficial. Just as everyone finished eating the wolf meat, they suddenly heard a very subtle hissing sound. Mortals might not be able to hear it, but Lin Muyu and the others had sharp ears and eyes. They had long sensed a powerful aura approaching. Is it a holy beast? Lin Muyu asked. Something like that. Shi Yan smiled. It's a snake. A snake? Yes. As expected, the grass parted, and a medium-sized venomous snake about 2 meters long slowly slithered out. Its scarlet eyes stared at everyone, and its head was a standard isosceles triangle. Poisonous. Lin Muyu frowned. There's no record of this snake in the Shattered Cauldron Realm's Book of 10,000 Beasts. Do you know it, Sister Shi Yan? Flame petal snake. Look, the patterns on its back are in the shape of petals. It's very beautiful. Shi Yan pursed her red lips and smiled. Although it's not very big, the flame petal snake is one of the most poisonous snakes in the world. A drop of its venom can kill 10 mammoths. It's a fire type, and it lives in volcanic areas all year round. It can withstand the magma and survive. The flame petal snake's meat is very delicious. After drinking it, it can prolong one's life and nourish one's beauty. Hee. You really know a lot. Lin Muyu and Qin Yin's faces were filled with admiration. Shi Yan said, when I was training in the myriad worlds and stars, I have walked through at least thousands of planes. Moreover, I have lived for tens of thousands of years, so there are too many things that I remember in my mind. Perhaps you think that I am more like an old monster. That's not true. Qin Yin hurriedly comforted her, but her face was a little pale. Lin Muyu glanced at Shi Yan and said, which old monster can have such a perfect body and face like yours? If I brought you to my hometown, Earth, Sister Xian, you're practically a peerless beauty that's 1 in 100 million. Not to mention being an old monster, how are those young women supposed to live with you? Lin Muyu's words were more powerful, and it almost made Shi Yan beam with joy. Pushing Tang Xiaoxi's arm, Shi Yan smiled and said, Xiaoxi, be careful of the flame petal snake's venom. Go and get rid of it. This is a venomous snake that's more than 20,000 years old, so its meat must be even more delicious. After getting rid of it, let you make snake meat soup for us. Not only will it nourish and beautify you, but it will also greatly improve your law of fire. Oh really? Yes. That's great. Tang Xiaoxi immediately carried her spear and floated away, but she didn't go near the venomous snake. After all, it was more than 20,000 years old, and it was not that easy to deal with. She raised her palm from afar and cast a divine seal. Boom! The flame blasted a big pit on the ground, but it didn't kill the flame petal snake. Instead, a fiery red shadow dashed out of the flames and went straight to Tang Xiaoxi's face. It opened its mouth and spat out a scarlet venom. Be careful! Lin Muyu shouted. Tang Xiaoxi was not an ordinary person. She spread her 9 tails behind her and suddenly dodged the flame petal snake's venom. Then she thrust out her spear, and the tip of the spear was enshrouded in a fiery red flame. This was the attack of the Flaming Heart Blade, the power of the 2nd level of the Great Karmic Fire Technique. The Great Karmic Fire Technique was one of the S-level martial arts that Lin Muyu got from Lulu. It was also the most suitable martial arts technique for Tang Xiaoxi to practice. Naturally, she chose it. The Great Karmic Fire Technique was a mental cultivation method for practicing the power of fire. It was completely different from the Fire God Seal, but as long as she practiced it to a higher level, it would be enough to improve Tang Xiaoxi's strength to a new level. In the blazing sound of the wind breaking, the dig's spear directly pierced into the body of the flame petal snake. Immediately, the orange-red blood burst out. Hiss, hiss! The flame petal snake raised its head again and spat out another mouthful of venom at Tang Xiaoxi in the air. However, Tang Xiaoxi was too fast. Her figure was as graceful as a butterfly, and she easily dodged it again. She exerted strength in her hand, and the spear penetrated the flame petal snake's body and nailed it to the rubble. Mu Xianyuan sword. Tang Xiaoxi was not willing to use the Fire God Seal anymore. It would burn the flame petal snake's body, and she would not be able to use it to make soup. Therefore, Lin Muyu's Xianyuan sword was the first choice for a weapon that could easily split a holy beast that had lived for tens of thousands of years. Almost without any hesitation, Lin Muyu raised her hand and threw the long sword out. She used her qi to control the sword from a super long distance, and the long sword slashed into the rubble with a clang. The flame petal snake's head suddenly flew far away, and its body kept wrapping around the handle of the dig spear. Even though it had lost its head, it was still struggling. Very good, it's taken care of. Shi Yan said with a smile. This flame petal snake is at least 2 meters long. It's enough for the 3 of us to have a full meal. You hurry up and keep it. Chapter 981. For the whole afternoon, they traveled straight north for nearly 70 miles, but they didn't find anything. They didn't find any spirit beasts or spirit fruits. Fortunately, they had enough harvest. The petal snake was enough to make the 3 beauties think about it for the whole afternoon. It was nourishing and beautifying. Who would complain about being too beautiful? Appearance was always a woman's greatest weakness. When night fell, Lin Muyu once again found a suitable campsite in the forest. She lit a bonfire, took out her military pot from her cosmos sack, and started to boil the soup. This petal snake was very sturdy. After peeling off its skin, it was chopped into pieces, filling up half the pot. After adding all kinds of seasonings, she started to cook it. Lin Muyu's culinary skills could only be considered average. She didn't learn much from a few old masters of the spiritual fire division and only knew how to eat. When the fragrance of the soup became stronger and stronger, the 3 beauties looked over with faces full of anticipation. Even the eyes of a blazing angel, Shi Yan, lit up like a young girl. It was really hard to imagine how a blazing angel who killed people like flies could have such a gentle gaze. Perhaps she was really tired of war? As Lin Muyu stirred the soup, she thought to herself that when everyone stepped into the God the Arch realm and returned to the Shattered Cauldron realm from the Mystic realm, Xian might have already recovered her cultivation. At that time, she would have to ask her for help in conquering the entire celestial pole mainland. Wouldn't that be making things difficult for her then? After all, Xian was really tired of war and killing. She seemed to really enjoy the life of traveling with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. In her eyes, this kind of life was considered living. Who cares about her? Let's eat our fill first. Lin Muyu divided the soup into 3 big bowls and gave them to the 3 beauties. Although the snake meat looked a little scary, Shi Yan, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi were not ordinary girls. They had experienced countless killings, so eating snake meat was a piece of cake. The snake meat of the flame petal snake was very spicy. When Lin Muyu swallowed the first bite, he felt as if his throat was on fire. That kind of burning sensation was not something ordinary chili could compare to. When the meat entered his stomach, he felt as if a flame was burning inside his body. In just an instant, Lin Muyu's forehead was already covered with sweat. He couldn't help but curse. At the side, the 3 beauties, Shi Yan, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi, stopped at the same time. They carefully tasted and endured the first bite of the flame petal snake meat. Among them, only Tang Xiaoxi was slightly better. After all, she was the most proficient in the law of fire among them. Her resistance to fire was also very strong. Lin Muyu had the paragon personality and was proficient in the 12 laws. However, he mainly cultivated the law of fire, lightning, ice, wind, and so on. Fire was the law he was most proficient in. The first bite of the snake meat made him freeze for almost a minute before he could recover. However, once he endured the torture, he felt a very enjoyable warmth in his stomach. Rich fire spiritual energy seeped into every cell in his body. Xian was right. A bite of the flame petal snake meat was equivalent to half a month of cultivation in the law of fire. Instantly, Lin Muyu had a new understanding of the primordial mystic land. How was this training? It was simply a foodie's journey. It could be learned by eating 99 great perfection celestial emperors. At the side, Tang Xiaoxi had completely enjoyed the meat stew. After eating, Tang Xiaoxi hid in a corner of the cave. Her body was surrounded by raging flames. She had to cultivate and integrate the spiritual power as quickly as possible. At the same time, she had to improve the cultivation of the great karmic fire technique. They traveled in the day and cultivated at night. This had become their cultivation routine in the primordial mystic land. However, Lin Muyu still maintained his vigilance. It was her duty to stand guard for everyone. Therefore, every day, Lin Muyu only slept for 2 to 3 hours. However, it was enough. At some point in time, Shi Yan and Qin Yin had already fallen asleep. Tang Xiaoxi closed her eyes and continued cultivating. Lin Muyu hugged the Xianyuan sword and leaned close to the cave entrance. She squinted her eyes, but her spiritual perception was still on high alert. Suddenly, he opened his eyes. A strong aura was invading. "Wake up. Someone is coming," he said in a low voice. Shi Yan and Qin Yin hurriedly sat up. The other party came very quickly. They were only 10 miles away and they arrived in a split second. Outside the cave, there was a burst of light and rays of light that penetrated the wall of space flickered. Lin Muyu looked on in awe. There were dozens of people appearing outside the cave in an instant. They were all experts of the God realm. The strongest were experts of the God Emperor realm. This group of people was dressed very strangely. They were dressed in the clothes of ancient humans. They looked gentle and refined, but they were all very strong. "This is bad." Shi Yan frowned. Lin Muyu walked out of the cave with the Xianyuan sword in her hand. She looked up at the people in the air. As the light flickered, there were still people arriving. There were more than dozens of them. There might be more than 100 of them. More than 100 God realm experts. This was indeed a big problem. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Xian also walked out of the cave. They each took out their weapons and confronted the other party. Dear friends, we've just arrived here. What's the meaning of this? Lin Muyu smiled humbly. In the sky, a man said coldly, you intruded into our sparrow spirit region without permission, yet you pretended to not know anything. Could it be that our region lord Saint Wolf wasn't killed by you guys? The Saint Wolf? Lin Muyu smiled. We did kill a wolf that wanted to eat us, but we didn't know it was the Saint Wolf. This must be a misunderstanding. Who is the region lord? A middle-aged man in a black robe with sharp eyebrows and starry eyes said indifferently, I am the region lord of the Sparrow region, Wang Lin. For you, judging from your attire, you are not from the 64 regions. The 64 regions? Lin Muyu was confused. Region Lord Feng, my 3 companions and I came from the East Heaven realm. We borrowed your precious land to cultivate. We are all gods of the East Heaven realm. My name is Lin Muyu. Greetings, Region Lord. You are gods of the God realm? Feng Zhanlin's eyes were cold. The 64 regions and the God realm have always minded our own business. What are you trying to do recently? Last time, there was only one who came and turned the world upside down. This time, there are 4 of them. With that, Feng Zhanlin stared at Lin Muyu's sword. Your weapon, why does it have a special aura? Can I take a look? No. Why? Feng Zhanlin raised his eyebrows. Lin Muyu smiled. Don't tell me there are no rules in the 64 domains? In my plane, the rule is that weapons and women are not to be lent to others. How dare you speak to the region lord like that? Another man in a red robe shouted. Brat, don't think you are great just because you are from the God realm. Let me tell you, this is the ancient God realm. You are just some juniors here. It's no big deal. If you dare to disrespect the region lord again, I will make you pay. Feng Zhanlin said coldly, Lin Muyu, since you killed my battle wolf, it seems you stole the devil's palm banana and Nixonberry, right? Not stole, plucked. We didn't know it was the region lord who planted the spirit fruits. As the saying goes, the ignorant are not guilty. Is this the case? The case. Feng Zhanlin laughed. You're trying to reason with me? Then let me tell you, strength is reason. As long as you can defeat us, reason is on your side. You mean, you have so many people? You want to fight me alone? Lin Muyu frowned. Can't I? Didn't you guys join forces to kill brother Lei Chuanxing? Who is Lei Chuanxing? Stop pretending. Feng Zhanlin said angrily. If you cut off his head, I will also cut off your heads. Lin Muyu had already taken out a heavenly writing tool embryo. If it came down to it, she could only use the heavenly writing to escape. If they really fought, how could she win? There were more than 100 gods watching. Right at this time, Xian's voice entered Lin Muyu's ears like the buzzing of a mosquito. You, hold my hand, circulate your formless elephant tactic, and lend me your supreme godhead's force. Let's see if I can intimidate them. Lin Muyu was at a loss. Trust me, or we'll be in big trouble, Xian said. All right then. Xian stepped forward and held Lin Muyu's hand nonchalantly. She waved her other hand in front of her, and with a hum, the blazing moon sword slowly emerged. Are you really going to fight? Xian smiled. Lin Muyu let out a muffled groan. The formless elephant tactic in her body spun rapidly, as if it was sucking the god force out of her body. She lent the supreme godhead's power to Xian. Boom! A light element shockwave surged out. In the next moment, Xian borrowed Lin Muyu's god force to enter her blazing angel form. 6 radiant wings spread out behind her, and the blazing moon sword shone brightly. Xian's eyes were filled with killing intent, and the power of the 99 heavens surged. She gritted her teeth and said, You bunch of reckless fools, do you really want to fight me? Feng Zhanlin's face turned pale. He hurriedly landed on his knees and said, So it's Lord Blazing Angel. We have eyes but failed to recognize you. Please forgive us, Lord Blazing Angel. He turned around and looked at the crowd with a cold gaze. In an instant, over 100 gods fell to their knees. Majestic and domineering, this was the name of the Blazing Angel. Lin Muyu wanted to die. She saw that Xian was an honest and kind girl, but she was even better at bluffing people than herself. She really had to give it to her. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi maintained a vigilant expression. Their power had increased a lot, and they could more or less cheer Lin Muyu up. Lin Muyu, on the other hand, felt as if all of his power was being sucked away. With his current cultivation, he couldn't withstand such a strong aura. Shi Yan sensed Lin Muyu's uneasiness, so she retracted her 6 wings and returned to the gentle and quiet woman. She smiled and said, "Me and you have just arrived at the treasure land. Is this how the domain Lord Feng treats us?" Feng Zhanlin shuddered. "I know I was wrong. Someone, invite Lord Blazing Angel and her friends back to the domain castle." You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.